heard that the government at the time that had sent people to like with the race, and also he was separating like if you had like a Christian outlook on life, and then if you had like the voodoo, like I guess you call it voodoo or practicing like Santa Maria and stuff like that.
Well, where is this? Did you say about? Where is this? Okay.
You know anything about that?
Wait, say that question again.
I heard that government at the time he was giving like free homes to people from Spain to come out here, basically writing up the race, and he wanted to keep it like a Christian or country. So,
You're talking about DR.
Yeah.
Like during the Trujillo era?
These things were offered though, but they were never on the large scale that I was talking about in Puerto Rico and specific places though. But this was a Spaniard thing. Spaniards did that regularly. You know what I'm saying? They did that regularly. You know what I mean?
You mentioned about the voodoo. What was you saying about that?
So like that was something that was associated right with
Well, yeah, they used the voodoo to fight the war they was in with the French, right?
I've heard that, but I know
Yeah, they would.
yeah, yeah.
You know, they would play drums to get hyped before battles, and the French were not superstitious. So they started making the association, and the drums were scared.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
So it wasn't so they didn't use, because I was told that in the history of the French war that they used the voodoo to get them up out of there, and
They use it as a fear tactic,
okay,
right? Because religion only works if you believe in it, right?
right,
So they use it as a fear tactic. Like, if I pray to SpongeBob and then I kill your brother successfully, you'll be like, oh shit, this is SpongeBob.
right,
You gotta be careful. All right, we're gonna outlaw sponges, we're gonna outlaw square pants.
right,
We're gonna make sure that we don't get these SpongeBob powers activated.
right.
You know what I'm
So you're
saying?
saying, right, you gotta believe it for it to be effective for you.
Yeah, like that's even a part of voodoo, right? Because I was raised in Santeria, and a big part of the belief system is that if you don't make your offerings to your guerreros, it's not you that's gonna suffer. It's them because you're not feeding them, and then they're gonna die.
Because what happens, like, I was going out in town with a Haitian woman, and I went to a house one time, and I noticed that she had these dolls sitting around in the house.
Yeah,
And she had glasses and cigars on top of them.
yeah, it's like
Yeah.
offerings.
And then she had
Those
these dolls.
Yeah,
She had these guinea dolls around. And then she had names on them and applications and things. And I happened to see my name on one of those applications.
did you
And,
get out?
and one of them pins stuck in the doll with my name on it. Now, what that mean?
I mean, she likes you.
What was that? Keep me,
She likes you, baby.
That's what she had. She had a pin stuck in me and shit. Man, I cursed my ass out, got the hell out of the house. I don't know, I took the dog with me, what I'm talking. I just heard him get out of there, tell me I don't want to see you no more again in my life. But that was scary, man, for that moment.
Well, you gotta
But I
remember.
don't believe in that. You see what I'm saying?
Well, it didn't work.
No, it didn't work. It led me for a minute.
You
The
gotta
hell
remember,
is-
like, well, most of that comes from is ancestor worship, right? So there's always going to be a misunderstanding, right? Like, I'm pretty sure everybody who grew up Christian and has family that's Christian, and you see daily the misunderstandings that practitioners of the faith have, as opposed to what the intended message of the faith is.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So you're gonna have that in voodoo, something. You're gonna have that in every religion, right? This is 5, 10, and 85 in every cipher, like plain and simple. You know, there's no exceptions to that rule. But like at its core, it's basically just like ancestor worship. You know what I'm saying? And I don't even want, maybe worship is not even the right word. It's more like
Practice of the culture.
like ancestor.
Yeah,
Honoring. I was
Yeah.
looking for a verb of revere with the
Yeah.
Haitian in it, with words, right?
It's good in that though.
Veneration.
It's some good.
Veneration. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Put that college degree to use.
What's the word?
Veneration.
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 Yeah, to venerate is to big up
Peace,
somebody.
God.
Yeah. It's good in that.
No, it is definitely a beautiful thing in that aspect of it. It's just that once you put something as a religion, it turns toxic,
Right.
right?
Control.
Because now you're dealing with a mystery. When you're doing a practice that has a reason, then you're doing a practice that has a reason. When you're doing religion, you're just doing dogma. You know, it's like the dude.
Let me add on to that though, because I always say this. I always say that anything that develops a tradition, whether it's right or wrong, has the potential to become religious because it has the potential to be enforced. And when it has the potential to be enforced, it could be enforced blindly, ruthlessly, by any means. And that means it doesn't have to be proven. There's something that one of my favorite philosophers, Krishnamurti, always says is that everything that you learn becomes a belief if you don't continue to test it. So if we learn knowledge though, right? If you ever read Krishnamurti books, I always give this preface though. If you read Krishnamurti books, he uses the word knowledge the way we use information. And he uses the word information the way we use knowledge, right? So information is, but I'll say it the way we say it. When you have something that you show and prove is knowledge, you said that the original man is God. You went through the research, Sam. You showed and proved, right? You see it. But then you just see it as a fact and you never really study it. You don't really add on to it and you don't test it. Like you don't say, listen, there's got to be even more than this. You always have to be testing it. Once you accept that it is true, then now you believe it. You see? And then now that you believe it though, you won't be able to deal with any kind of counter questions to it. You know what I'm saying? You'll feel that there's no need to it. Like, why do I have to prove 1 + 1 is 2? So it's almost like if you go into a child and your child says, but why? And you go, wait a minute, so that's why, you know what I'm saying? You just don't want to do that you come to that last why. It just is, you know? Right?
It's so true.
Yeah.
It just is.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Because I said so.
Well, for me personally, with my daughters though, I like that line of question. I keep going with them.
Yeah.
Because I see it as a battle though. They're not going to win this one. You know what I'm saying?
That makes it fun, right?
Yeah, they're not winning though. Yeah.
Hold on.
No, my oldest is 21, and she does still do the Y thing. But my youngest is 9, so she does the Y thing excessively.
The challenge.
You know what I'm saying? But yeah, you gotta answer all of it. You gotta answer it as best you can. It's a good exercise. What's a better exercise than that? An adult will not go through it with you like a child because adult will realize that, well, at a certain point, an adult will realize that they will not care about something so difficult to learn, and they'll just leave.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
What you also get with adults is it degenerates very quickly into a pissing contest.
Right. So how do we keep things not from being religion? We have to constantly bathe ourselves with belief. That's why every time someone comes in the classroom like Gabriel, I say there are 3 things I would like you, because remember, I'm not forced to do anything.
Right.
I would like you to remember to use for your daily life, even if I never see you again. The first thing is, we rarely ever get the chance to decide who it is that teaches us. So whether it's a book, a lecture, a film, a person, as myself, take the time to develop a criteria, a listing of making sure why this person gets to teach me. And in that, you're going to start to go into other things, as in, why am I learning this? Why am I remembering that? You see? And then you start to figure out what are the things that you learn best? What are the ways that you learn best? And what are the ways that you get fooled? You know what I'm saying? Right?
When you get fooled?
Get fooled.
Fooled.
Right? Fooled. Fooled. F-O-O-L-E-D. Right?
Fooled.
Right? Because a lot of ways of learning, you get fooled. A lot of ways of learning, though, you may not be equipped with the way to learn it. It has nothing to do with what you're trying to learn. It's the way that you're not good at. Some things like ancient civilizations, you're best learning it by books. I don't care what we talk about, YouTube and all that kind of shit. You're going to need the books. You know what I mean? You're going to need to read books. And some people don't like reading those kind of books. So they stick to YouTube and they have a poor knowledge of the subject. You know what I'm saying?
Vet the author too.
Right? Just like martial arts, though, you cannot just look at YouTube and do what the YouTube guys do. You know what I'm saying? You have to learn it with an individual that has been shown to match the criteria and pass the test. Right?
Same thing like with knowledge itself. Like you can
Right.
understand that the black man.
Right.
But
With
you
all
come
these
get the
things
knowledge.
that Inf Mega and we've all put on the YouTube, people could understand what we deal with to a high measure, but they're not going to be able to be it until they're with somebody individually.
And that's why I had it, because
Right.
I've known for years, like I
Right.
know. For
So,
years I didn't have
That's the
thought
first thing
process.
I tell everyone, regardless if they ever come back again, right? Decide who it is and what it is that teaches you. Realize that everything that you ever remember or everything that you learned was your choice, and don't blame anyone for indoctrination from this point on.
Right.
It is your choice.
That's why I had to come get the
You see?
knowledge myself.
And when you can't remember what you want to remember, it's because there's a flaw in your system, not you, in the way that you do things. That's the first thing to understanding, by the way, being the true and living God. We never blame ourselves and say, oh, I can't do it, it can't be done. We know that there is something that we are doing wrong, as opposed to saying that we are wrong. There's a difference. There's a big difference, you know? So then the second thing, right? The second thing is that I like to preface and say that a student is someone that's willing to be wrong about anything at any time. And it takes a lot of ego. You know what I'm saying? It takes a lot of ego and letting go of ego to say, listen, I don't really know about that. But I've been in this classroom many times and said, I don't know. Okay? The reason I get to teach here is because I know how to get everyone to the answers, not because I know all the answers. Although it feels like that sometimes. Because with that college education, all those fancy words.
Working out these $65 words, yo.
Right.
Well, one thing Socrates said, and that was, one thing I know, and that is I know nothing.
Right. And so what is the second thing I'm asking you to remember to do? The second thing I'm asking you to do is always be developing your next question, putting it into words, which means that everything that you think you know, you better make sure you actually know it. Because if you really truly know, you say you know something, but you don't know it well, your next question will be sloppily made. You know what I'm saying? You don't really know subtraction, but you want to know division. You know, like shit like that, right? Develop your next question, because one of the problems though isn't that we can't find knowledge, is that we can't make the question. Kind of think of it like Google. The thing is empty. You can write whatever you want in there, but people don't know what to put in it. Like sometimes they don't know what to put in there. You know, if I told people find good music using Google, they wouldn't know what to put in there. They'll find bad music.
I'll just put my own name.
See?
Just put John Coltrane. That's all you gotta do.
There you go. But people don't know who John Coltrane is, right? So they're not
You
getting.
said put Coltrane in, hear music, you're gonna know good music.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Automatic.
Listen to the weekend.
Oh, can I ask a quick question? You three are new?
Yeah.
They're newborns, not their first time in class. This is Gabriel's first time in class.
Come on, first one.
All right. One of my suggestions when it comes to finding people to build with is, like, I like to use the daily math as a litmus test. You know what a litmus test is? The litmus test is to test the acidity of something, right? So you test it, is this drinkable water?
Okay, yeah.
You know what I mean?
The pH balance.
Yeah, right. So when I say I use the math as a litmus test, I ask you, because I don't quote on demand. I'm not an organ grinder monkey, and I honestly don't care if you can quote degrees backwards in Arabic. I don't, especially if you're gonna quote a degree and then go sell crack.
Right.
Like, I don't care. Like, all you did was memorize
Right,
something.
you don't
Not
live it.
impressed.
Right, you don't live it.
Right. But if I'm like, oh, what's today's math, God, and you just give me the answer and you don't show your work, and then all you do is talk about how great you are, then I know that the only thing I can learn from you is how great you are. But if you give me something that's a little bit more, you show your work.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is today's math wisdom? It's not the second, right? It's wisdom cipher, all being born to wisdom.
Right.
I want the whole problem. It's math. Remember math class?
Right.
Show your work. It's
That's
worth
how-
half the credit.
That's how I had to explain it to him yesterday, because I asked him what today's math, and then I had to show him how to go on back, because he didn't get that.
And then what I look for in the build is, how does wisdom added to the cipher?
Right.
Born wisdom. You see what I'm saying? So it's like, I want to know that you could tell me how those three principles
Right.
play off of each other, how they're intertwined, how does 2 + 0 = 2?
Right.
And then if you give me a build and I'm like, okay, this person's obviously done their homework, now we can talk a deeper conversation.
Mm-hmm.
But if you just like wisdom, and then you start quoting the wisdom degree in every single set of lessons, and then you say something grandiose about yourself and how you manifest your wise words from the wise dome, and that's like all you're saying is just like, fortune cookie stuff that
Right.
I've heard a million times,
Right.
and it's just like there's nothing new here. Fuck, I need you for that. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
So it's like people are just doing it just to be down, or just like to be.
yeah,
Well, this is the-
sure a lot of them love it
I would say this
wholeheartedly.
though. This is the problem. It doesn't mean that there might be saying something wrong. But here's the thing. Everything I said, whether it was right or wrong, or perceptually good or bad, if it has a tradition, things that you continually do to keep it going, it has the potential to become a dangerous religion that is enforced by brutality. That's with everything. It doesn't have to be something bad. It could be something good, right? It could be something righteous too. So in developing your next question, that's the second thing I said. The last thing, the third thing is to always be bathing yourself with belief. Figuring out what is the thing that we are dealing with the most, that we have the least amount of knowledge, and that we basically deal with belief. They don't really know. For most students in the beginning, right, it is their diet, right? Here we don't eat pork, right? You walked into my class, so it's a whole bunch of other things to learn about diet, okay? Pork is just the beginning. So you have to say what has pork, what utilizes pork products, etc., right? So you're learning about something, and most people, their diet is what they're not paying attention to. They don't read the back; they just read the front of products and all that kind of stuff, right? So that's like the usually first example. But we have to bathe ourselves with belief. Thinking that we are the true and living God assumes that we know everything. When we're in the universe, though, that is constantly developing, right? So we have to constantly say, listen, what is it that I'm dealing with that is most based on belief? That I'm answering to that I don't know about, right? That's what you bathe yourself. And it happens every day. We're thinking about this every day, okay? And there should be moments during the week, though, like when you write in your journal and things like that, and you say, listen, what is it that I'm dealing with that I could learn more about, that I'm making a lot of decisions on, right? It could be simple like this. There's pretty much from you on the back, you all make music and stuff, right? Let's say you're making music and you've done it for years, but you don't know enough about production, right? A lot of that now, when you make songs, some of it is going to be feel like it's based on belief, like assumptions, and he'll fix it and he'll do this, and it's magic after you do it, right? Like, right? It's a magical.
They'll clean it up in post.
It's a magical process and shit like that, right? And it felt like that way for me because I was just doing the verses and stuff. So it was like, wow, man, I sound so like wow, like, you know. So even when I wasn't in the pocket, I was like, wow, in the pocket now. Right? My man Quincy, come on, he can't put me in the pocket. You know what I mean? Kept me in the pocket, right? I'm saying I was in the pocket a little bit, right? But these things are based on belief, and as I go along, I would try to learn more and more about this process, so it's not so foreign to me. And obviously, right? The more you learn, it would help the process, right? Certainly not in the industry, help you not get duped so much, and so on and so forth. But these are the three things I tell anybody. I never see you again, Gabriel. These are things that for the rest of your life, someone is going to teach you things. You are going to need to learn things from people, places, things. And how do you judge and make that criteria, right? How do you continue to learn and develop and grow means how well you evaluate where you're at now and how best you put what you need to know into words. Most people never get to this question that would lead them to this school because they never made that question into words in their mind, And we study ancient Kemet, though. They also felt Jacob Caruthers' book, Intellectual Warfare, the last essay, it's a powerful essay, it talks about ancient Kemet. This idea of the mind creating things was necessary with word power. In other words, you had to go through the process of taking that knowledge and putting it into wisdom, making it into viable words that then spoke out. Or else that creation wasn't really going to be fulfilled. The word was very, very, very potent, you know what I'm saying? Or valued as it should be, you know what I mean? So that's what I mean, you know what I mean? So now you could cut class and leave and forever not come back, but you're always welcome, right?
Speaking to value of words, before you try to show and prove that you are God, define God, right? Because how many people Come on. How many times have we had this conversation?
Right.
How many people still have a mystery God concept that they apply to themselves?
Right. They're a magical being and shit like that.
Was that Cap 120 son of a
Listen,
say cars?
I've been in many
No,
ciphers though, Dayson, you know too, where people have been trying to like describe themselves as mythical. Like you tell them like you can't go through walls. Now I'm a true living God. If I wanted to, I could go through walls. I'm like, oh. It's not. First of all, we did, but that's not really the point though, right? Because it's really not the point though. There was a reason we made the wall. I remember when Duma one time he just said somebody was saying that crazy shit. He was like, I created the door. You're gonna ruin what I created? You know what I mean? So I was like, right? I made the door. You know, like I wanted to be there. You're gonna walk through the wall? You're gonna ruin what I made? So it was kind of like that. Like you're not looking like all this was made. So we're trying to escape reality with this knowledge, and that's exactly what it's not. You know what I mean? We're trying to see the reality. It's a totally different thing.
Well, the thing is that a lot of those manifestation videos that I'll be looking at or whatever with the white people saying that you are God.
I just like the way you said the manifestation videos with the white
ones
people.
with the white people. They got goats, they got yogurts, man.
But they sit up there and they like one of the reasons that made me come to the class even more is because they are saying in it that everything that you're saying, let go of everything, the reality, all of that. And understand that you are God. This I'm like, yo, they're telling me that I'm God. And how do I get the exact knowledge of myself? Because even in their same videos, they're saying you have to attain knowledge of yourself. I send to God the same videos all the time. They say you have to get knowledge of yourself. You are God. There is nothing in the sky. You are God. So I'm like, okay, if they're telling me this, the brothers downtown is already teaching this. I said, I need to go there. And that's what made me start coming here because I've been hearing about it because I just didn't know the school was free.
Okay.
I didn't know the school was free. Okay. I used to walk by here all the time. I didn't know it was free.
Oh yeah, it's amazing how much misunderstanding goes on about what the school is and some of the rumors that people.
I'd have been here years ago. I thought I had to pay like a student loan.
When Jay's son gave me my first flag, and I'm showing it off. Yeah, that flag. Somebody said, "Yo, did it hurt when they jumped you in?" What? We're not bloods. What are you talking about?
People definitely think this is a gang. They definitely, I've seen that.
So when you got your first flag, how did you get it?
Jay's son gave it to me. Yeah, I work with kids in the school,
Uh-huh.
and we was having a conversation, and in that conversation, the conclusion was a flag is a good conversation starter.
And he gave it to you like that?
Yeah, I can't just walk up to kids and be like, yo, man, forget all this algebra. You the God. Like, I'm gonna get fired if I do that.
Right.
But if a kid goes, yo, what is that?
Right.
Oh, this is what blah, 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 blah. Oh, what does that mean? Well, it's mean blah, 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 blah. And now I'm just answering his questions.
So it's a conversation.
Yeah, I'm just answering his questions.
It's the law of attraction, attracting
Right.
power.
Yeah.
Especially
Ain't that the same video?
Especially if we are supposed to reach the youth and teach the youth. A person like him is in an ideal situation, and children are drawn up by what they see.
Right.
And if all they're seeing is the dudes wearing the red flags, the dudes wearing the blue flags, what they're getting out of their phones, what they're seeing in the street, all this constant stimulation to get them to be hyper consumers and whatnot, they should be able to see our flag. That's what I think the teachers had that. You get into the youth right there.
Right.
And the system is supposed to be indoctrinating them so they have a pathway out of that indoctrination to the prison. I mean, actually, pipeline of prison.
Right. But they that say it all the time. Law of attraction. I'm telling you, they the same shit. They say the same shit. It's the law of attraction. You have to let go of your reality because it's not who you are. They say this is not who you are. This reality is not who you are. This is everything. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, okay, because I'm trying to get an understanding of who I truly am. You know what I mean? And through my whole life, people was trying to confuse me on what the fuck was real and what's not, and you got to go about shit this way. And even when I've been trying to get the proper lessons and get the proper knowledge of myself, even niggas in the street is up here trying to play a manipulation factor. They're trying to play like they're like some mystery shit was done. Yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Peace God.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like as soon as you said law of attraction, and we looked at each other. Because it's the same shit that in the bill, the white people trying to tell you, you God, let go of reality, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh shit. They know the truth.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like, it's pretty, like a lot of stuff that you see in those videos is pretty basic Buddhist
Right.
stuff, because white people love two things, Indians and Indians. And everything, if it got a dot or a feather, absolutely holy and sacred, and let's just go all the way in with it. And we're gonna do hot goat yoga,
Right.
and we're gonna just
Hot goat yoga.
hot goat yoga, not regular goat yoga. All right, that's for people who don't know shit.
Right.
The truth is in the heated goat yoga, but it's that's how they are. Like they're just really fascinated with Indians and Indians. So you're gonna see like a lot of that. I'm in a Facebook group called "This Is What Happens When You Let White People Say Namaste." There's a lot of videos.
You coming on some like a sound with the whole new age movement.
New age just means watered down India. Yeah, that's all it means. Have some chutney, call it a day.
Right, Madame Blavatsky, the New Age. That was like the most profound. And remember, I mentioned J. Krishnamurti. I'll give you that background. J. Krishnamurti was identified as a young man, as a young child, by Madame Blavatsky to be their leader and be the holy one. But he left the movement realizing that there's no holy one. We're all we're all the same. It's all one. And he left a lot of money on the table, because they was pimping him hard though. He was like the holy one, And of course he was still so popular, people still listened to him, but nobody really did what he was saying. You know what I'm saying? They just like to listen to him because they like to listen to Indians.
Yeah, I mean,
build. Yeah.
Have you seen what they got going on over there? It's ancient. It's ornate. It's colorful.
Right.
They got danceable music. That always helps when praying, right? You want to go to a church where everybody's clapping off beat.
And, it goes back to the history I was saying, though, that these major religions, a lot of them originate out of India. Remember I said that the precursor to Buddhism was Hinduism. That's in India. So all these precursors are coming out of there. You know what I mean? And they're very attractive. They have attracting powers.
Where's Roger when we need him?
Yeah, right? He's going to call me out.
Yeah, right, Papa.
So we figured out the reason why Roger gets all the HR jobs. Right? But those three things, right? Let me go. I just want to make it simple for Gabriel because he's here and stuff like that. The Father did all this though. He left the nation Islam. He said that there's no mystery God, and he started to teach that the black man is God, black woman is the earth. He started to teach who those original people are, right? Made it distinct though. That's also an innovation in his to blatantly say who the original people are, and not just say it's black people, this and that, not really know what that means. You know what I'm saying? In other words, he redefined the racial lines. It's not just what you say will oppress. Will oppress everyone who has a drop of black blood and things like that. We've come to identify ourselves by how much hate we will receive. You see? We haven't identified ourselves by our actual origins. You know what I mean? Who we actually are. When we talked about humanity before, the only difference really in this idea of humanity is that they're all human, black, brown, yellow, and white. Okay? The difference is that in this history, we're saying that the white man was made. In other words, he would not normally come about historically. Okay? Genetically, he would not come about unless something was altered for him to more likely come about. Okay? But he is still human. Okay? Right? That's one of the difference between the Nation of Islam's teachings and ours, because we took out the skunk, saying that it said that the colored man was a skunk of the planet Earth, and we took that out. The Father said he's not an animal, he's human, He may be grafted, but all that you learn in the lessons is that the white man was made to be grafted weak and thus wicked. Nobody's wicked, unless a baby comes out of the womb all chucky and chokes the doctor with the umbilical.
Birthmarks and all that.
Right? Yeah, and all that shit, right? But wickedness is an action, right? To be wicked, you have to act. The idea is that when this individual was grafted so heinously that he becomes so weak, he wouldn't be able to function and would what? Have to blood suck and do corruptible things to continue his legacy. These lessons aren't to be read, though, as a micro reality. In other words, you go out and you say, listen, it says here the white man is devil. There's one right there. Get him. You know what I'm saying? You're an original man. Oh shit, you must be God. Like that. That's a micro look. These degrees are macro. They're written for the entire populace, though. The likelihood of all these individuals, though. You see? But we're gonna go through life, though, where people, original people, black, brown, yellow, that look like us, will be privy to all the information that we have here, with all the tenderness and kindness and sincerity that it takes to give it, and still be pieces of shit.
Well, what's the saying that we not anti-white nor pro-black?
Right. I'll get to that. Right. And the same thing holds for whites, though. Right. Generally, they cannot excuse themselves as just living in a cold place and it made people cold. That is a shitty metaphor of assumption and connection. You know what I'm saying? That's bad literature too.
I never.
You know what I mean?
That shit.
Cold place, cold heart. That's corny. The truth is that throughout history, though, their weakness has provoked them to do massive amounts of devilishment. And it cannot be excused by saying that there are a few whites that are good and things like that. Okay? However, taking on this macro reality in a degree as an individual reality, each white person that you deal with, though, should be dealt with according to their own reality. Whatever it is that they show and prove. And I'm saying this is someone that has a different perspective because I've taught white people this knowledge. You know what I mean?
You've actually taught white people like.
Yeah, man.
Some was good dude. They were good dudes too. Like Crown, that's a good dude.
Was it the dude you spoke about him last week? I don't know if it was.
I spoke about Azrael last week. Azrael was the first white representative. By the way, Crown sees himself as original. He sees himself as Southern Italian, so he sees himself as original. But the point made, because there's other Southern Italians in the station that see themselves as just a righteous man. They don't see themselves. So they make their own choice based on the history of your own self that you study. You won't cover your own history. You have to show and prove your reality, right? Like I said before, some people, right, in this world that is physical, based on the phenotypical structure of individuals, though, nobody has a problem. Like I said, nobody's going to bump in the street and Sam, I'm sick of these white people just bumping into me. You better get out of the way, right? Right?
Got a white great grandma,
But in many realities.
I remember. My mother's Dominican. I didn't know my mom was Dominican until 2010.
I wish you all the best of luck in claiming the privilege.
That shit, man.
Yes.
Hit up the bank, see if you get some loans.
Yeah, right.
Let them know, listen, I got a white grandma, yo.
Yeah, right.
1 ounce of black blood.
My mom's is from St. Thomas. She West Indian and Dominican.
Okay.
Yeah, St. Thomas in the house.
So her whole first and middle name is Latin, Ramona Rosita. She got a last middle name. Her last name is American.
Okay.
So I didn't so my whole life growing up, I'm like, yo, we gotta be some type of Latin something because there's no way my mother's whole name is Latin and we're not. So I found out after my cousin died in 2010 and they had a reunion down south.
Okay.
They said our heritage.
Peace, God.
Peace, God.
So yeah.
Travel safely.
So that's how I knew we was Dominican. My mother, like my father's black, well, my mother's West Indian and Dominican. So they told me pictures of her mother. They said her mother's.
I hear you, God. I hear you, Malik. I'm going to get into that.
Her mother's a white Dominican. I said, oh, wow.
Huh.
I said, wow. But if you look at my mother, you wouldn't think she was Dominican at all. So what made me think is when we were speaking about it a few weeks ago, I think when my mother.
Dominicans coming on shades of black, brown, and
Right.
yellow.
But what I think she did though, right, is when she came to America at 13, 14, I think she was very fluent in the Latin language. I think she just came over here and blended in and stopped dealing because everybody told me when I was a baby, they told me I used to speak fluent Spanish all the time. She just stopped teaching.
That's very common, though.
Mm.
Right? A lot of us had to assimilate. Puerto Ricans were taught to assimilate that came here. You know what I'm saying? Right? I'll say this, though, what I was saying. The father said that we are neither pro-black nor anti-white. You know what I mean? We are pro-righteousness, anti-devilishment. Doesn't mean we don't do things deliberately for our brothers. We're not pro-black, right? We do pro-black shit, right? You know what I mean? The difference is that we're not making decisions just because.
Right.
You know what I mean? And that's the key to it. We deal with knowledge. We deal with actual facts. We deal with the reality that a person gives. You know what I mean? And every man has a right to have this knowledge of self because it's knowledge of self. It's true. So every man has a right to know his history. You know, a white man does have the right to know his history has been corrupt as hell, and yet he has the potential and the possibility to be the greatest rebel and do something about it. That's why I always teach white man is the greatest rebel. You know? When we rebel, though, it's supposed to. They have to. They don't have to. Right? So they would be the greatest rebel.
Well, it says in the degree to all human families.
Right.
It doesn't say to some human families. It doesn't say for everybody except you.
So
To
even
all human families.
so, even though the white man was grafted, he's still considered human.
He's still a human, yeah.
How is he human?
I want to know how.
Does he-
comes from us?
Does he think?
Comes from me.
Does he have sex? He does all of these things. You know what I'm saying?
Part of the stuff I don't want to just like throw
Please
claims
say
out
your
there from,
thoughts, yeah.
what I read,
Mhm.
from what I understand. You know what I'm saying? When I was in prison, reading like urban hood books and stuff. There was like this part where there was a guy like explaining to another dude that human, the prefix "hu" means color. So in order to be human, you have to be like have some type of color, some type of pigment, and
They do.
white men don't have no pigment.
They're not white, they're pink.
They're actually like salmon
Yeah,
color.
for real, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I was. But I stand corrected. I stand corrected.
Peach cream.
Well, you gotta think about it, right? Part of that was in us at some point where we couldn't have grafted it.
Right, and this is where we were speaking about last week about the word colored
Right.
with the ed on it.
Let me go through certain things, though. Right. What you did was an exercise in etymology, the history of the root of words, and that when you study the root of words, it would give you an idea what that word truly means. But it doesn't mean that the word means that, or it was meant to be used that way. You see what I'm saying? Right? When it says human, right? The word hue means color, though, and the word man means mind. You know what I mean? So then there would be colored man, right? It's awkward, okay? And the degrees don't use the word human, by the way. There's no lesson that says human. You know what I mean? Like in that sense, right? So when we talk about the colored man, right? We're talking about someone. First of all, color is seen through the eye. Okay? The amount of color that you see is reflected, is how much light is reflected off the eye. So black reflects no light, so you see black, right? White reflects all light, and so you see white. Okay, so technically it would be the most colored color. Okay? So by that definition, no, he would be a colored human, man of hue, right? It's not an exciting color. It's not like he doesn't have a pastel color, you know, or any of the pastels that Sonny Crockett has, you know what I'm saying, that would make him exciting, you know. But this idea of the colored man and seeing their lack of humanity is something that's very easy for us, right?
But you've heard that claim.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, many times.
It's a dangerous road to go down.
Yeah.
I was down there, bro. Brother.
Because it's like, is it called knowledge of self or is it called knowledge of absolute strangers? You know, like I work with kids, so I find myself often, so often, repeating the phrase, worry about yourself. Don't worry about what he's doing.
Right.
Worry about yourself.
Right.
And it's the same for this. I meet so many people that are just so worried about. It's a handful of degrees in 120 that even talk about it, right? And a lot of these questions, the question in and of itself can apply to you in places. Like one degree that the question I focus on more than the answer. Why isn't the devil settled on the best part of the planet Earth? And whenever I think about that, it's usually when I'm arguing with a girl that I'm dating, and I'm not settled on the best parts. I go, I was acting devilish, right? Because all of the above was caused by me anyway. She's not going to be in her feelings because of something that I had absolutely nothing to do with. Even if I had nothing to do with it, if it's directed at me, I must have some part in this anger that's being like, there's a reason that I'm not getting any full time that night. Right? So I did something devilish, you know, said something poorly worded, did whatever it was. So why am I not settled on the best parts right now? You know what I'm saying? The question now is, come up with your own answer to that because it's applicable to a situation that was not the intended situation of the question. If that makes sense.
That makes a lot of sense. Because you put it going back on self.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, like you're the only one that gotta live your life, right? So it's all up to you. Whatever happens, all of your, everything that happens to you in life is a result of your choices. Right? We all live. Talking to Divino, his catchphrase. We all live in the justice of our choices. Right?
You have accountability.
So if you spend all this time on the white man this, white man that, the white man put crack in the ghetto. It's true. You can research that. The white man absolutely put crack in the ghetto. As Professor Covert used to say, he put a library there too. I don't see you slinging books.
Nah, that's tough.
Oh, it's really, I mean, it don't get really no more honest than that.
It's about your choices.
It's about your choices.
So that's what I'm saying. Like, don't focus too much about, the devil's doing this, the devil's doing that. Yeah, that's what he's supposed to do. You don't get mad at a handicapped person for being in a wheelchair.
Right.
You just focus how you can fix it. Go ahead.
Part of the stuff is like, you can have all the books, but no opportunity. I mean, what you said is true though. It's 100% fact, but we're going back in history and talk. It wasn't freaking giving mortgages to colored people, Spanish people, brown people, black people, whatever you want. You know what I'm saying? You can have all that money you think you can. But yeah, that was tough what you said though. That was hard. But
I said a lot there, Gabriel. Rio said a lot too. So if there's any questions about anything, I always like to give a time of a break.
I'm gonna ask a question. As far as the
Including
female,
here too.
as far as the female, what is the female taught when they come to knowledge of themselves?
I think a lot of women don't like being called females though.
What is the earths?
They feel like they're being called a robot. Yeah. Just messing. Yeah. But just in case, I'm helping you. I'm helping you. Really am. Because I've seen people get demolished on Twitter for saying the word female.
You don't want to be accused of being
That's a good question, God. I'm having a little wisdom, God.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanted a little boy, but it is what it is, God.
It's your first child?
Yes, sir.
Well, congratulations.
All right, peace.
That's peace, God.
All right. Baby moms was in the Nation of Islam. She's cool. She's like, what do you teach her? She's not God.
Right.
You teach her that she's the procreator, right?
She's the earth. You know what I mean?
Right.
You teach her to be
The
strong.
best part.
Yeah. You know what I mean?
So raising her to be the best part.
Go front.
You'll figure it out, Free. You know exactly what to teach
I
her.
wanted a little girl though. I had a son.
I want a boy,
A girl.
God.
You trying, man.
No, I ain't trying to. Yeah.
Oh, you don't want more kids?
You know, because I know you know the salsa. There's an Angel Canales song about that too, eh?
No.
Yeah,
What is that?
I'll send it to you.
All right.
Yeah, I'll send it to you. Yeah. Everything that you make though has a reason to it though. You may not even notice it though. That was in your subconscious and shit too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's for you to do certain things. You know what I mean? Sometimes you even have the children that are harder to teach because that's the job. That's the duty. You know what I'm saying? Right? It won't make you any less yang. You know what I'm saying?
No, absolutely not.
Right? It'll make you more powerful, God. You know what I'm saying? You'll probably get more yang actually.
Yeah, she gonna learn the kung fu with me, God. She gonna be better than me at it, God.
Yeah, well, when you have your own daughter, right? When you're out there, you're gonna work harder with your kung fu, guy. You're not gonna do it less.
Do it too. So
Yeah.
you ain't gotta worry about prom night.
Yeah. You know?
I ain't go front. I wanted a daughter. God gave me a son. I wanted a daughter because I don't know. It's just something about the energy of little baby girls and their father. Like they don't leave their
Yeah,
fathers.
They have a beautiful energy.
Yeah,
I agree with
They
that.
don't leave their fathers.
I agree with
And
that.
I always wanted that. My son, he don't fuck with me at all. Like, he don't fuck with me.
You gotta be patient on that one, yeah.
He grown now, you know what I'm saying, and he's been indoctrinated,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying, and only thing I could do is what I eventually did, is when it got too out of control with my mother, I just went to my father, and I sat and talked to him, and I talked, and after that conversation we had, he died right after that shit.
Oh, yikes.
And I think it was from a broken heart, because there's a lot of things he didn't know. And when I sat down and told him, he just started crying right there. And he died 7 days after his birthday.
Damn.
Yeah. And I said, and once I learned my father, I said, yeah, I know why I said that conversation we had. His junior, his twin, looking right at him, telling him everything that happened. He died right after that shit. He couldn't take it. Because he was a heavy street dude. He was heavy in the streets. Like I wish he was alive now, because I would have asked him, did he know Father a lot? Because they're around the same age. They was in the war together. You know what I'm saying? Both from the street. My father, Bronx, Harlem. You don't know how things could have, you know what I'm saying, met around. You know what I'm saying?
And you gotta stay focused on the now, because you know, technically the past no longer exists, right?
Yo, they say that in them they say them same shit in them same videos. They're like, yo, leave the past in the past. It's about now. Leave all that shit alone.
Because now is all that exists, right?
Right.
The future is yet to happen.
Right.
The past is nothing you can do about it. And it is normal. Like, everybody ruminates about the past.
Right.
Like, if you don't sit there and go, yo, if you're not kicking yourself in the ass about something that you did,
Right.
then you probably didn't have a very fun life.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
There's always gonna be something that you did because it was fun that you like, I probably shouldn't have done that. That costed me a lot more than it was worth.
Right.
But at the same time, like, you know, you gotta just pull yourself out of that, because
Right.
that's another dangerous road to go down. Because then you're gonna get stuck.
You start
And
getting
there's nothing
depressed.
you can do about it.
Nope, because you're gonna start getting depressed and anxiety. And I had to get out of that. I was in that state.
It's a reflection of your great
Yeah,
God.
I was in that state for a while, and I've had to learn to pull myself out of that. And I think coming here and building with the gods has helped me a lot with that too.
I'll say one thing. I know I left for a little bit. One thing about children is that they, you know, they're like a lot of ways. The children of 5%ers, though, in a lot of ways, so they're often they're often the spoon in the soup. You know what I'm saying?
No, I don't
I don't understand.
It's a nice callback, yo.
Right? They're often the spoon in the soup. In the Dhammapada, it says that beware of being so close to the truth that you're just a spoon in the soup. The spoon never tastes the soup, but it's all up in the soup. It's more in the soup than you are, but it's inside the soup and it doesn't taste. A lot of times your children, though, like with my children, they're so close. They see all these things, though. Like for my youngest one, making books, making music, doing kung fu, all that shit, that's all regular shit. It's like whatever. You know what I'm saying?
all in the soup.
So they're the soup. They're the spoon. My kids are spoons. They're inside the reality of this, though, and it's like a thing, you know?
Oh, wow.
No, that's a real
Yo,
thing too.
Yeah.
That's a real thing. Like I
They're
see
so
us
close that they don't, you know?
do that.
Like I had the one that I explained, like, to my youngest, I was like, you know, not everybody does this like this, right? Not everybody does that, you know? It's only me that does that. So you can't just be telling everybody this and that, you know what I mean? It's very regular, that life, you know, but nobody lives like me. Nobody's doing that shit. You know what I mean? So they're so close that they don't always see that, you know? And just like a spoon in a soup, the spoon could also be drowned when let go. And we are often, though, like in my situation, we're not with our children all the time. We don't get to be with them all the time. So they end up being let go, and the whole spoon is in the soup. And so it's hard to get the handle. You know what I'm saying? You know? So your own reality, your own truth, that soup, you try to get them out of into your own reality, you burn your own fingers. You know? That's what that metaphor means in a lot of ways. And it's like that, you know. My oldest, though, she had to make her way a lot of those crucial high school years without my tutelage like that, me taking her through it. So she got a lot of my mentalities, the will, you know what I'm saying? The will to complete things, the will to create, and all these things like, yo, this is dope. You know what I mean? But a lot of the things that I've been able to teach hundreds of people, she doesn't know it like that. Even though she sees it like that, you know? And then all of the, if I build and stuff like that, it's just like, you know,
Regular conversation.
this is regular shit.
Dad doing what he does.
That's the shit that he does, you know? Peace.
I didn't see you when I get a minute.
Okay, that's peace.
All right.
You know, so you don't, they don't see it all like that. You know what I mean? That's it. Yeah.
Because I experienced it from the other
Yeah.
guy. Like I just recently at the age of 41 had this moment where I was like, yo, I got private bata lessons. Like
Yeah. I mean, I know
not
who he
a lot,
is, so that's
like not a lot of people could say that. I never really
Yeah.
thought much about it. I was like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
But then like at the age of 41, like it finally dawned on
So I remember
me.
years ago I was telling you about records that, yo, Frank was on this record, he was dope. I was like, yeah. And I was like, oh, you kidding me? That record is fire. Yeah.
Bata, it's a Yoruba drum that's used for like religious rituals and stuff, and it's like you can't go to Sam Ash and buy one.
But he was playing Conga. He was playing Congas on salsa records. Yeah.
He's on a lot of records.
Lot of free, a lot of Tito Allen records.
Yeah.
A lot of Tito Allen records, among others. You know what I mean? Dope albums too, man.
But I never really like thought about it because it was
Yeah,
like this
yeah.
is just what you're doing to live. Like what your dad didn't teach you.
We
how to
try
do
to
it
make-
when you were 3.
We try to make excellence the norm, but sometimes the people that are closest around you, your children, they also try to do something different. This happens often too, especially with me with music. You know what I'm saying? Everybody that is close, like family members and stuff like that, they always try to pick different music. And I'm like, yo, I listen to the best music. Just submit to this. Submit to this. Don't try to find different shit. Don't listen to whack pop music. Don't listen to this. You know what I mean? But it's like that. Even your children do that. Like, and this doesn't mean that, you know, they're around their own ciphers, their own peer groups, things like that. But like my oldest though, she'll listen to a lot of pop music. So I get Frasier and I'm like, oh dear God, you know, like I'm like,
Well, I mean, think about it.
Right?
It's like one of the best ways your kids can rebel against you because they're not going to end up in prison if it goes wrong, but they're going to piss you the fuck
Yeah.
off.
So, but she ends up listening to pop music that always has to be the most progressive, artsy, fartsy pop music, and I'm like, you know what I mean? But
Take this to win.
I do. I was thinking about that now. Yeah, I was thinking about that now. Yeah.
Also, in secret, check her Spotify. Because I felt when my kid's big sister, her big rebellion was the same thing. She
Yeah.
listened to
Yeah,
the
it's
21 Pilots. I hated it. And then I accidentally signed into her Spotify one day and I was like, yo, this is a lot of bad brains going on. In this place. It's like, I feel better now, yo.
Right. It's the same thing, yo. Yeah. Because they know it though. I took a lot of time to teach her who Johnny Hartman and John Coltrane were. That album, you know what I mean? By the way, that's the album to play with a woman. You know? But
Malare, M-A-L-A-B-E.
a lot of the records he was on are hard to find.
Well, the Larry Harlow stuff is all easy. I know he's too commercial for you.
No, I have Larry Harlow.
I like light and food, so I'm okay with him.
Yeah.
He's such a so you know.
Yeah, he did. He was
alright.
in other people's bands, and he did a lot of everything, including like the music that you hear when you're in the mall and it's coming through the can, and you're like, fuck, who goes to work and records this? Yeah, which I asked him about, and told me like food. Well, that's why I'm on this record.
So he has his own work, his own albums out.
No, he was like a session musician, part of bands and stuff like that. Yeah.
Gotta be the liner notes.
Yeah, this is guy on Marvin Gaye album. This the saxophone player that played on What's Going On. Just like he was a session musician, he never put his own. I was like, oh man,
There's a lot of people, a lot of those, especially back in those days.
And it's a great time. They put out their own, so everybody else.
Yeah. Well, music business was different back then too. Now any idiot with internet access, when you're sexy, you can have a career.
And do nothing.
That's why a lot of the stuff that we hear is like You realize we're listening to what would have been a demo if it was 30 years ago.
Yep.
It's not a developed album.
Yep.
There
A
was
lot of
no-
demos.
It's just demos.
A lot of demos.
Like Munch was just a demo.
Mm-hmm.
Huge song, terrible song.
Horrible song.
It was a demo. Like
Thank you. Thank you.
if she was 30 years older, that song would have never made it on the radio. And who knows what her follow-ups might have been.
But then I also learned how she got to where she at. Is got the dude she met in school who helped her get on. His father DJ enough.
Yeah.
That's how it is.
Well, you know, it ain't what you know, right?
It's who you know. And,
Yeah.
and then, you know, she's also on the same label as Tekashi now. So she's with those other things. And then it's like, okay, you look at it for what it is. It's clearly obvious she's an implant or whatever. Because when you look at her shows, she never raps live. She raps over the song. And once she forgets her words, she starts shaking her butt. So it's like, it's like Ice Spice, like
Particularly orange.
Yeah, I know.
from the Bronx, yes.
Extremely baritone voice.
All right, you guys are giving me a headache already.
Yeah,
Right?
it's making me sick just even having a conversation about it. Like it's really like.
All right, to everybody here, thank you for that. I appreciate that about the album. Where was the question about what was the build?
We don't listen to loud issues.
Exactly.
Digital noise, man.
And,
Right.
and just the difference between digital noise and actual instruments is so many differences.
You know, what's an interesting thing? There's a music writer, great music writer, Ted Jiwa, writes about jazz, and he was saying that a lot because of the digitizing and the synthesizing of music, it actually favors the obsession with the perfect note. So everything is synthesized to sound perfect. So you don't see any nuance, you don't see any detail, and that's what makes a player good. That's what makes a singer good. You know what I mean? Their particular nuance. You know.
It's funny that you say that.
Yeah.
Some kids were saying something right like before Aretha Franklin passed, and they said something about like, oh, I should sing off key or whatever. Not off key, like it was kind of pitchy, and they didn't understand like when you sing live, you're not trying to match every note perfect. That takes away from the
Right.
actual performance.
Well, you know, when people looking for the distinct definitions between what is the differences between the way you sing soul, the way you sing like a conventional jazz song, and the way you sing, you know, other R&B and then into soul, the real definition is that you have to wail and go off of it.
Right.
You know, and that's what Aretha was doing, though. You don't do that. You don't do that jazz. Or like, you know, in salsa and stuff, right? The good example is to compare like any great sonero like Lavo or anybody like that, Cheo Feliciano, right? And compare him to Mark Anthony, who's singing. No. For contrast,
It's your turn to give me the melody.
the contrast, right?
You gotta write those names.
Yeah. So you're listening for contrast because the sonero doesn't wail over. You know what I mean? They cut through. So like Lavo's voice is actually as strong as Mark Anthony's, but it cuts through. It doesn't go over everything, and it doesn't wail off.
He's not stepping on toes.
Right, but Mark Anthony, the whole point of the song is that they reach a peak like an R&B song, and you know, for the end of the thing.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which is nice too. It's nice too in a pop way.
But it doesn't feel.
No, it's not the
It
same.
doesn't feel street.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
Personally, I like my music to feel street.
It's
I don't want it to
romantic.
sound overly produced.
It's romantic.
I want it to sound
Yeah.
fussed out.
It's like all pop songs where they hit that peak, and they hit that peak, and then they hit it, and then they hit it like that. Peace, God. But
Put Ismael Rivera. Did he put Ismael Rivera on that?
Oh, I forgot Ismael, man.
Come on. Caras lindas.
Ismael Quintana, there's a whole bunch of
Yeah,
Ismaels.
that list is a long list of like.
The greatest that I never got to see live was Lavo and Rivera, Maelo, and Lavo. Those are the ones that I wish I had seen. But everybody else I saw. You know, they were old as hell on the song, but they still kicked.
Yeah, that whole generation's gone. It's sad.
Yeah,
They didn't really replace it with much.
Yeah. No, they didn't.
Yeah. And it got like so Americanized, and it got so like.
If you're into if you want to hear love songs with congas and bongos, then
Which I don't. I've never had that urge.
I do on the rare occasion. I do sometimes, real. It'll be like a 20-minute thing.
I want to hear songs with the hook goes. Listen, sir, if you value your life,
Old soneros, right? Like, you guys ain't shit, I'm the best.
if you don't speak Spanish, that sounds like a love song. So, okay, no like I saw.
Yeah,
If you don't speak Spanish, it sounds like a love song. It's very much not.
Yo, that's crazy.
Shit, before I read the lyrics, I thought Dia de Mi Suerte was a happy song. Oops.
Yeah. He had the Tupac lyrics though.
Yo, facts, like that song is depressing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If I die tonight, that was the Lavo lyrics. Like, you know, I was saying this because that's my favorite Lavo, right? He only has, in his whole catalog, he has 2 songs that are positive about women. It's 2 songs. That's it.
Every other song is.
Yeah. I mean, he has like Bandolero though. He says, when I throw you out the window, you climb back up the ladder. The fire escape. Remember, that's the verse. I try to get rid of her. I throw her out the window, and she climbs up the fire escape. These are the kind of lyrics he had. He has some crazy lyrics though. Yeah. Oh, he had what was the song? Oh man, I forgot. Soñando Despierto. How does he go? That he had a dream that his mother-in-law got hit by a Mack truck and was killed. But he woke up, and that's why he was crying, because he found out that it was a dream.
That's wild.
That's yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah. In fact, in real life, though, they say he loved his mother-in-law, but
It makes for a good song.
that's not what he's saying, though.
He was Eminem before Eminem.
Yo, that's
Listen,
a lot of salsa was hip hop before hip hop.
I'm blasphemous there. You being blasphemous there. Blasphemous there. Don't do it. Do not associate that.
When you analyze it though, like a lot of old school salsa was hip hop before hip hop. Like first of all, it came from the
Well,
same
no,
place.
in the 2000s, man, in the 2000s, I used to talk to Willie Colon, and I told him that, and he got really mad at me until I explained it. He was like, "We're not like those kids. We don't curse and everything like that." And I was like, "But you just told me that you had a fight in the club in Jerome Avenue because you had the cover Lomato, and they wanted to see if you were tight like that because they had the Lomato cover, like "I'll kill you if you don't buy this album." And he had the gun to the guy's head. So they was asking him in the club, y'all really get down like that?" Right. And I'm saying, "You guys are like hip hop." He's getting mad at me, and I was like, "You're doing it to yourself. I didn't make the cover."
But it is though. It was Mad Street. It was mad grassroots.
Yeah.
He came from the Bronx.
It was
It
competitive.
was battle culture, exactly.
Yeah.
Like it's the only thing that was missing was the DJ and the graffiti, and not even really the DJ missing because there was DJs.
Yeah.
They just weren't cutting and scratching. That's all.
Right. Yeah, it really was the first urban genre. That's what I was telling everybody. The first urban genre. Somebody asked me about Malik. You asked me about the wisdom build degree, right? Doctors, ministers, nurses, and creamers. So last week I was talking about the roles, right? In the wisdom build degree, each one has roles. Not everybody's on this degree, but each one has roles. And the idea is not to match up the roles. So like the doctors today, they're going to do much more than just, examine, right? They might be doing the minister's job, things like that. So the metaphor to evaluate it today doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that the doctor in that lesson is just that, or it means doctor. It means all of these places where they examine you. You know what I'm saying? Right? We was do. Where do you get validated? Where you look at institutions that get validated, and we dealing with the degree, wisdom build, borns what? Knowledge add on a cipher. That's what letter in the alphabet? That's the justice, right? So you're looking at the justice of these institutions. There are institutions that might examine you, but that doesn't mean that they're devilish, though, right? You know what I'm saying? But there are, or they could be abused that way. You know what I'm saying? So now when you look at these degrees and you try to deal with them in today and have value today, you're looking at how these metaphors extend and propel you to see the society that you're dealing with, though. So like it says cremator, though, right? The cremator today, in today's society, isn't be like, we're going to find the cremators that cremate, dead bodies and shit. That's a devil. We're going to beat the shit out of him. So that guy probably is the least heinous profession, right? In today's no, seriously, right? If you look at like
Providing a cheap service.
What's the wisdom build degrees talking about, and what cremators do today, like they the nicest dudes out of the whole shit. You know what I'm saying? Doctors are trying to stab you with vaccines, you know, and you know,
opioids, you know.
and sell you all types of drugs and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? Ministers are still advocating devilishment. You know what I'm saying? They're pumping the religion. So, right? And the nurses are still advocating, right? They still stick pins in many ways. They still do all that, right? So you're trying to look at the institutions that are around you. Study the institutions around you. I always say that societies are based on institutions, but the way that they really oppress is not because the institutions are all just evil outright. It's because there are people that know the connective tissue between the institutions. How does education link with military? You know what I'm saying? How does military link up with this part and that part, right? When you know the connective tissue between the institutions, then you can control how they relate to each other, how they engage each other. You know what I'm saying? And there's always, when we were talking before about transhumanism, right? I think it was you, Sam, who mentioned all that stuff. That's really the power of the connective tissues of the institutions, right? Put everybody under one thing, right? Have power over the whole thing, right? Starts with a vaccine card, but then with that vaccine card, you have control over them. Do like China though. We have control over your bank accounts and everything like that. Oh, you did something, we don't like that, but now you don't have access.
So that's what they're about to do here.
You don't use cash though. So now that you don't use cash, if we just lock out your account,
They're going to do that.
you can't buy anything for a certain time. Or look, we notice your purchases that you're kind of buying some,
Crazy shit.
Yeah, it looks like you're buying weapons or something like that. You know what I mean? Like, are you doing something? What are you doing? Until we could investigate further, we're gonna put a lock on this, right? All these things could be done. Those are just some of the things that they talk about with transhumanism and stuff. Those are just some of the things. But when you're looking at the wisdom build degree, you're trying to match up those institutions. So what do each one of them do? The doctor is examining, the minister is verifying, right? The nurse is really committing the actual death. Like, what are the institutions that are really killing? What are the institutions that are really doing that, right? So you could look at, you say, it's police and shit like that. But when you look at the degree and match it up, you realize that, wait a minute, the nurse could be sticking the pin, but it's not really her that's doing the most damage. You know what I'm saying?
You have some institutions that are several things. The doctor, the nurse, the cremator, so.
In that degree, right? In that degree, because in this degree is about the breeding process of how the white man was made deliberately through a breeding process, right? Called grafted. It's different than the way the word is used for, let's say, grafting when you're dealing with plants and things like that. Okay? It's different. So if you find all grafting evil, then never eat a banana again. Because it hasn't had a seed in hundreds of years.
Right, because the root banana has black seeds.
Okay, right? But those are not edible. So they had to alter them. They had to work them. You know what I'm saying? Right? Now the guy is looking at me like, I'm not gonna eat them bananas.
Nah, I thought they still had the little joints with
the I can't find. I never seen.
I mean, not here locally.
By the way,
say again. The green grapes don't have seeds.
Those are not.
Right. But that's different.
Nah,
that's even different than the bananas.
Yeah,
That's a
you
long
said
process.
those.
But remember that taking away the seeds of something doesn't always mean it's genetically modified. Okay, these are processes in grafting. But what I'm trying to say is that term is different than what we're saying here. So don't say like the process of having this plant or anything like it's grafting. So now Cypher, that's a devil plant. You start stuck with a plant and shit like that. You know what I mean? Right? Your woman buys a plant. It's like, that's a grafted plant. And you just knock it on the table. You know what I mean? It's different use of the word and shit. In fact, it's a unique use of the word in the lessons. The idea though was that there was a grafting process in this to have the white man come about. You know what I'm saying? An isolation of the seeds. Extract the black seed, then destroy the black seed by not allowing any of the black seeds that are born to live. See? But remember, how does this happen? Do you just continue to kill? No, you have to tell them something, right? Tell them that they're an angel baby. Tell them that they're a holy baby if you let them survive. So the nurse's role, her physical destruction isn't really the worst thing she did. The nurse's worst thing that they do is the mental idea. It's the mental idea that a person mating with someone else says, if this child comes out like this, they will not survive. Now the mind epigenetically starts to change. The mentality, you start to make seeds that will live. You see? And now the black is slowly what? Grafted out, destroyed, physically and mentally. You complete that process. Now you're only getting brown and yellow. Deal with that. One at a time. Separate them. Show them that they're different. Separate them. Show them, right? Do other things, right? Diluted in the blood, all that kind of shit, right? These are things that are done, but it's all a mental and physical process that's going coinciding. So when you look at these metaphors, how do these degrees have you from identifying things, but also not just yelling at everything that you see? You know what I'm saying? Right? Because you were saying before, right? Like you see the color man, you see all these things, right? It's important that we learn to control our emotions, right? And realize that in this world, if I said and I showed and proved that you were the true and living God, Gabriel, then that means that it's your fault that all of this world exists the way it is. You see? And so it is your responsibility, right, to do the things that are going to what? Heal that. Work around that. Add on to it. You see what I'm saying? And this was a process that would look like, well, but why did he do it? Why, why would Yaqub do that though? Yaqub's not so bad a man. The grafting process was for a 6,000-year rule out of a Quran that is what? 25,000. So technically it's less than a quarter of a Quran though. Okay? So, but these were things that he identified in us, separation and mentalities of separation that he identified in ourselves that were manifesting. So I'm not going to say that it would have taken 2-3 Qurans of life to deal with all these issues, but these issues were there and they were real. And the idea was to concentrate it and reveal the issue. What better way to reveal the issue than show a form of humanity that was not humane, right? And show it in front of us though, so that we could deal with it, right? So get your Yaqub baseball cards out. Get some things, right? Anyway, Yaqub jersey, right? 666, right?
You know what's amazing about the story?
What I'm saying is like, look, remember what I was saying before? I just want to complete this. Don't forget. The reason I'm saying all that though is that a lot of people go, Yaqub was evil, he's devilish. Stop looking at things as good and evil. Because if you were in that day and time, I would like to know, and that's a good essay. I'd love people to write it because these are questions that I write in my journal and try to answer is, if you existed during Yaqub's time, how would you deal with the separation that was already brewing at the heart of the original people? Said that making the white man was a horrible thing. So what was the other option? How would you heal all of this stuff? I'd have everybody come together and talk and everything like that. Technically, that might have already happened, and it didn't work. Because the Egyptian mystery school system that you learn about in Stolen Legacy was already doing that. It basically was making an intranet to bring back all the thoughts and all the ideas of original people. The book Stolen Legacy and stuff describe it as far as what Greeks took from it, which is really that first wave of black scholarship is always about we originated, we fathered it, we made it up, we're the starters of everything. But it doesn't give you the whole story because the scholarship never went from there. It's almost like people only care that we started everything, but they don't want to see what happened to make it fall. We don't get the whole story. You know what I'm saying? We're the fathers of civilization. Well, then how did we become the bastards, right?
Right.
Right? How did we become the bastards of civilization, right? There's a whole process. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at it, the Egyptian mystery school system was linking up other societies that have not necessarily gone astray, but had gone to different places. India, right? The Mongoloid cultures, right? That were living in other places throughout India, China, all of these places here, the islands, right? Putting it all back together, bringing it back together. The scholarship that we have only focuses on when they gave it to certain Greeks that were worthy to come in, right? But what about all the other people that were worthy? You know what I mean? Again, the black scholarship in many ways is very westernized. our answers are always like, they did that to us. How do we answer them? So it's almost like we're answering them. That's what Diop was doing. African origin of civilization. The whole book is answering back what Western people, white people say. But what about the questions that we need for us, though? There's more to it. So let me finish the thought. This is what I'm saying. Like, the real answer is like, you wouldn't make a devil, you wouldn't extract it, you wouldn't show this, you wouldn't expose all this. Then what would you do? What would you do? This is what I mean by saying looking at yourself as the king. Instead of looking at as just the people, what would you do if you were ruling? Because in this classroom, I haven't told you that you're just one of the people. I have told you you are the people. You are the leaders of the people. The 5% are the ones who lead the 85%. Right? Because no matter what, though, no matter how many percentage we like to do and how many good times we have and stuff, most people are not going to learn this knowledge. And when they learn it, though, you'll be leading them. In all these years teaching, though, there's legends like Free that have this knowledge, right? But there's a lot of people that I lead every day that have this knowledge that I lead them. They're 85 and shit. They say, well, you should do this, do that, and everything like that, That's the way it is, though, Unless I want to yell at them and say, you never become a 5%. Stop calling my number anymore. Just hang up and shit. You know what I mean? That's an option too, though, right? So what would you do? How would you analyze this problem? Because one of the things in the degrees, they're from the Nation of Islam. So the teachings are written very epically. You know what I mean? It was destined to happen. The promise that he would give his nation, this was destined to happen. So we read them like that. Like what's today's degree in the 1 to 40, right? What happens if you don't teach? You will be punished by the Nation of Islam. That's a religious thing. We don't teach that way. We're not saying that, though. I didn't say, Kasim, if you don't teach with him, you will be punished next time I see you. Yeah, get the paddle out. You know what I'm saying?
Catch you first.
With you with the butterfly knives, right? Not the pointy part, but just the paddle side. Right? I never said that, right? I said if you guys don't teach, what happens though? The world is more fucked. Or hopefully for you guys, it stays neutral fucked. Right? But if you don't teach, you get your own. You get your own work. But that's not the way the lesson is written. The lesson is written they're written for Muslims. So you will be punished by the Nation of Islam. There are things you have to go teach. So that means that we have to look that the whole thing is religiously written. So when it says something like it was destined that Yaqub walked them through the sands, and they walked through the sands, and everybody quotes these degrees as if it was like. Sometimes when I was learning the degrees in the beginning, I was envisioning like the Sir
Lawrence Olivier,
right? Theater actors, stage left. We walked them through the sands of Arabia. But it's like this is right? Everybody has flowing.
It's one of those flutes playing.
Right? But I'm saying like they're written epically, but life isn't like that, right? Life only gets, maybe at times it's like a Wu-Tang song, Triumph, right? Sometimes it's epic, but not the whole thing. The thing is written as like, it was destined to be. The lesson's saying that you're the true and living God, but then other parts in the lessons are written like it had to happen. You realize that that's not exactly free will or the ability. And it also has us, because it's written religiously, it confuses what law means. The way we define law is something that is just basically a description of what is right and exact. Let me explain. Right? The rule is that you put your water with the label out. Okay? That's how you put your coconut water. That's a rule. Okay? It's not a law. Okay? A law is something like this, though. We've endowed everything so that when we breathe, we actually get sustenance by this. So, and the law is that you're going to continue to breathe. You see? Righteousness is a law. Okay? It only becomes spoken about because people keep not being righteous. But until then, no, everybody's being righteous, though. right? We're being peace to each other, right? We never had a conversation, right? Casimiro goes, yo, that's crazy that you're being nice to me and stuff like that, right? That only would come up though because he gets treated horribly so many places. You see? So the law is just an identification of what is. You see what I'm saying? It's just identifying what is naturally. You know what I'm saying? It doesn't mean that I wrote the law and now the law exists. You know what I mean? And so the planets will turn this way. And they will turn around in this time. And the day should be 24 hours though. You see? Right? It doesn't work that way. The law is because it's right and exact. We created this and we created this way. When we identify what we have created, these are laws. Just like supreme mathematics though. People say, I always say, don't build with it like a spell. It is not a spell, right? Knowledge and wisdom. And I shall have understanding though. And it's like if you deal with it just enough, you get just enough knowledge and you apply just enough knowledge, like, like a puff of smoke comes and understanding appears. You know what I'm saying?
It has to be applied.
Right? You actually have to do real work. It doesn't come out like that. Or like today's mathematics is wisdom cipher. When I deal with my wisdom, my ways and actions though, and I bring them to the cipher, then wisdom is all that is understood. That's all that's there. That's all that will be. Is that really happening? Did you get on the train and you just said some really dope shit on the train that was real wisdom, and everybody was like, "Whoa, this is crazy." You know what I mean? It's not a spell. You know what I'm saying? It's basically just we're working this mathematics because it's helping us identify the natural laws of us. But when the Father made it, he didn't invent creation. He actually was creating the perfect pedagogical teaching tool. Because he didn't say, let there be mathematics. Holy shit, this is all adding up. Like it wasn't before. Right? So the thing is, though, is that's the difference between a law. But when you read the 120 lessons, you got to remember that this comes from the mosque. So the epic language of religiosity is creeped into it. It's steeped into it.
Yeah, brothers is lost, man.
Right? But that's how they deal with it, though. A lot of people, the purpose of religion, because there's a good purpose to it too, was that people aren't really willing to do all this work themselves. So they have to be guided, though. But they want to be guided to a righteous way of life, a righteous way, right? That's right. You teach people what? Civilization, righteousness. Then you teach them knowledge of self. So in the religion, you would be showing them civilization. This is our world. This is the righteous world. This is the way of the world that we have here, and we have to do good things to keep it going.
That's why they do salat,
right? That's what they do, because these are things that remind you. Remember what I was saying? Make sure that you're figuring out how you learn. And then you figure out what questions to make so you continue to learn. This entails one thing. You gotta have some kind of memory. You can't forget shit. You can't be forgetting the shit that you learned. You know what I'm saying? Oh yeah, you're in a relationship. You know what? I forgot though that slapping you is like not a good thing. I'm sorry, man.
It doesn't say in the lessons not to.
Right?
In all fairness.
Right? How far would your relationship go, right? Like you get mad about something, like, yo, man, you know what? Because I'm mad, I was rooting for Curry though, and they were down 2-0 and shit. And I just slapped her, she's right there. I keep forgetting, I shouldn't just let out things in the slap. But then she goes, oh yeah, never again. This relationship won't work though if you have it that way. Then the next day, you didn't cook me dinner? And another slap. So I keep forgetting that I'm not supposed to express myself in this way. If you forget the shit that you learn that's right and exact, you'll never go anywhere. But that's the problems of the populace. They're the 85. There's Syl Johnson. Any which way the wind blows, it's cool with me, right? So anyway, so what happens is that they'll see it this way, but then that sounds like a better way, easier way. We'll do it that. Why do you think this often is not the place where people come looking for knowledge. This is often people's last religion stop. You know what I'm saying? This is people's last religion.
For the people in the back.
Right. This is people's last religion stop. And it happens all the time. We get religious people here, and I'm like, you know what? I'm not really doing that. You know, you could do a couple of these Hail Sunyas, Cash App Sunyas, right? You could do a couple of those, but this is not really what we're teaching here. You know what I'm saying? So,
So that our soon is
Yo, man.
the Psalms of Sunyas. I should have a side package, so I just give them a packet.
Yeah, right. Then two religious be like, you know what? You come to the after class.
Yeah, take this. The Psalms of Sunyas.
Thursday at
Yeah.
10 p.m.
Yeah. Notice the Cash App, Zelle, everything on the top. You know, PayPal. But the thing about it is that people needed a way that would be consistent for them to consistently remember the best ways to love people, remember the best ways to love people, even if life is difficult, and it could be easier if they just didn't sacrifice. So like, look, Christianity, for example, one of its principles that it tries to teach horribly, I think it's the worst way to teach that principle, is how to sacrifice. You're supposed to sacrifice yourself. Right? Sacrifice means that, like, you know, and I remember Savior Nala's telling me this, so he was like, sacrifice means not that you have 5 pencils and you could give one away. It's if you only had one and you gave it away because the person needed to write, you gave it away. You don't have one now. That's sacrifice. The Christianity is teaching you that all the time, though. It's a guy 2,000 years ago. This guy 2,000 years ago, he fucked shit that you never even came, but they stuck nails in his hands, man. His feet. I explained to my 9-year-old though, what the hell was in the hand? She asked me, did they actually put nails inside that? And I said, yeah, that's what the statue that you walked into, that your mom walked into. Yeah, that's what was in there. You know what I mean? That's pretty gross, right? And I told her about the 144,000 new era, old era fitted. You know what I'm saying? The needle fitted, right? That's pretty gross. It's stabbing inside his head.
The first time I went into a church, it was like so alarming because it was like it's a foreign
Yo,
religion, right?
There are some churches that their Jesus statues be mad, like life,
church,
like
you walk in
yeah.
to the first time when that's a foreign religion to you.
Yeah, that's
and it's like you walk into a Clive Barker movie. It's just torture porn everywhere.
Right? It's like, but he sacrificed, and because of that, though, you're born in sin, so you should be able to say, listen, he sacrificed for all that. I could do a little sacrifice. So now, because of what he did, all right, I'll give you that pencil. He did all that, so you give your fucking pencil away. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I think he died for the sins, though. So if you don't sin,
right. But no, that's the magic in the Christianity that makes it so dope. Is that it's teaching you sacrifice. But if you don't sacrifice and say, oh man, I don't give a damn about that, or I can't do it now because I'm weak, I'm not like Jesus. Well, you could try again. You atone, try again. And you get credit for trying. Christianity is credit for trying. You know what I mean? You don't really have to, but you always feel bad that you didn't.
And that's the real magic of it, is that you always feel
bad. Yeah, you always feel bad. It's this ultimate guilt trip.
Yep.
No religion has a guilt trip like Christianity.
Nope.
You know what I'm saying? It's the ultimate guilt trip.
Yep.
You know what I mean? But it's crazy. Yeah. You know? And it has fear in it though, because the Holy Ghost is scary as hell. You know, Holy Ghost. That puts God as a physical being, right? He was here, he could come back, he's here. That puts him anywhere that you breathe, Holy Ghost. You know what I'm saying? And it puts him as the creator of everything that you ever saw that was dope. And so he'll get ultimate credit for anything you make because he's the Father. You see? So he's got all of the things laid out though. It's super devil work there. Like, but it took a lot of years to mold that mastery of that. But originally, the idea of religion was to really have people be guided. And one of the best ways to guide people in the worst way, one of the worst ways to easily guide people is to stop them from asking questions. You see? That's why I say religion is the glass ceiling, not racism, because racism is pretty easy door to see. Like, if you ever work in a company, you know where racism is going. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, yeah, if I say this, yeah. I know I can't get the promotion. Like this, I don't know what they're talking about glass ceiling because you never bump into it by accident, right? But religion is like it stops you from asking the question: What if? What if is the Creator's question? But you never ask what if because you never ask what if regarding other creations, other things that were made, possibilities.
You know what's weird about that too? It's like the New Testament supposedly comes as a sequel to the
He said sequel.
Old Testament, right?
This is blasphemy hour with me and Rio.
Yeah, we're going
Chris,
to hell.
yeah,
I
we're
mean,
playing-
I gotta go back to the Bronx anyway after this, so I'm definitely going to hell. No, but you look at the Old Testament, right? The New Testament, like, don't ask questions, just fucking do it because I said so. But you look at the Old Testament, it's like every single patriarch, God is like, yo, I need you to do a thing. The patriarch is like, well, hold on, why? Why do I need to do what? You want me to take my kid to a mountain and sack? Why? Why do you need me to do this? And it's like every single one. You'll Noah build the ark. Why? Moses, get some tablets. Why? So it's kind of interesting that you go from a lineage of patriarchs that every single one is like, but why? Why am I doing this thing? You're asking a lot from me, and I don't really get why. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Right? And then all of a sudden it shifts, and then it becomes, oh, you ask why, you're going to hell, buddy.
Yeah.
You don't question
But it's like
things.
it's a setup too.
Yeah.
Right? It's a setup too. You get taught not to ask why because there'll always be a reason, even if you can't see it. Again, everything you can't see. You know what I'm saying? You can't see everything, and that you have to accept that. You know?
Can I ask, like, I know you was talking about Puerto Rican history.
Please.
The Europeans, right? The European conquistadors, they're the ones that passed Christianity onto, like, all us modern Puerto Ricans and shit.
Absolutely. Obviously, with Spain, the conquistadores, when they came after exiling the Moors, who had conquered them for over 700 years. So they came with the civilization that was blessed to them by the original people, right? But when they fought them, they got rid of that. So that's why when you go Spanish Inquisition, it's a very powerful thing to study. Because Spanish Inquisition isn't just about getting rid of the Moors, it's about silencing the Islamic presence of civilization, the foundations of their civilization as we know it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And even today, Spaniards don't always like to talk about Moorish history. That effects of Spanish Inquisition, keeping things quiet though, keeping history unknown. It has its major roots in the modern era through the Spanish Inquisition. You know what I mean? So when they come over here, that's the religion that they're bringing, you know, and that's what they're succumbing everybody. Spain doesn't rule the slave trade like Britain would eventually do, only because Britain had more mastery of the actual accounting of it. In other words, these devils were more prepared to do business. They really knew what they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas it was sloppy. The Spaniards were not as keen to that. That's the only reason. You know, it's a battle of devils. You know what I'm saying? Britain won out in that sense. You know, but they forced Christianity. You know what I'm saying? Right? Even a lot of the revolutionaries against the U.S. of Puerto Rico, they were very pro-Christian. Pedro Albizu Campos is our greatest revolutionary, but he was very Christian. His idea of revolution was a righteous Christian Puerto Rican nation, right? So maybe if he lived and he survived until this day and Puerto Rican became independent, it would be a Christian nation, and then I would be a revolutionary against his shit.
It's
Right?
mind fuck.
Yeah.
You have to throw out a
That's
couple
a-
of t-shirts.
Yeah, that's like a Boricua Twilight Zone. You know what I'm saying? Like, right? It's a Boricua Twilight Zone. Yeah. But does that all make sense? I went on a real thing, so I don't know what the original question was anymore. You know, but I hope we see though that when we look at the 120 lessons, we keep acknowledging that these are written for a religious perspective. So all the epicness that's written, it needs for you to analyze it. We learn the 120 lessons, we memorize them. If you deal with this knowledge, you'll be memorizing them and you'll be having to quote them and give your understanding. But that's the whole point. You're supposed to be analyzing. When I get in trouble on YouTube, it's because people get mad that I say don't believe them. But that's what we were taught. And I don't know where you came from. You know what I'm saying? So, right?
To know is better than to believe.
Right. So, but belief is something that's very conditioned with us. And don't think that just because you got rid of the major one, you don't believe in a mystery God, that there's other beliefs surrounding you that you're dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. There's beliefs all over, you know, and we have to deal with our conditioning and uncondition ourselves all the time. That's why I said bathe yourselves of belief. Always notice the conditioning that you have with certain things, you know, right?
I think asking yourself, why do I do this, is one of the most important life questions.
Yeah, yeah.
Even more so than how did I do this, how should I do it, why do I keep doing this?
It's a real balance though, because there's so many things, especially when you get this knowledge, there's so many things you can do headstrong. You have to. You have to go forthright, you have to go headstrong. But then there's other things that you're gonna be like, wait a minute, I always do it like this. Is it possible that it isn't really the best way to do it? You know what I'm saying? So these are things to always think about. You know? Right?
It was a dope class.
But that's it. By the way, as you go along, though, that is an assignment, though. You know, as you learn more about it, could make your little notes and stuff. But what would you do to deal with this? How would you stop impending devilishment? You know, the separation, black, brown, yellow, separation of the seed, separation of the original. How would you deal with that? And then knowing that the Egyptian mystery school system was trying to do that and they didn't succeed. Because that was a great idea. What they were doing was amazing. You know?
It reminds me when you were talking about how like the scholarship just seems to end at like, well, you know, well they did this to us, we're gonna do this to them. And it's kind of interesting that that's so much more the concern of when it comes to like something negative, right? So it's like they did this to us, so let's get back at them.
Yeah.
But it's like, you know, the book, based on reading in class, deals with more like, well, they're doing this with each other and it's working, so we should start doing this with ourselves, you know, so that it could work. And as far as like political power, right? So it's like you look at successful whites, they do their businesses Wu-Tang style. My seeds run with his seeds, marry his seeds.
That's a fact.
That's how we keep Wu-Tang money all up in the family. Why don't we do that?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, instead of just worrying about like, oh, well, he hit me, so I'm
And
like,
doesn't
that
that juxtapose with
yeah,
what I was
how did he
saying?
get so strong?
It's
Maybe I
so
need to-
hard to go his seeds, our seeds, marry his seeds, right? Because many of our children are the spoons in the soup.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't see it. You know what I'm saying? Right? Yeah, they don't see it. You know? This also happens too, really, because our children see our flaws, though. And then they get mixed in the world, though, where they're seeing the definitions of God clash with what we say. See, the difference is like when we say that we're not going to deal with your definition anymore, with your mind, we rebuked it and we looked for it. They didn't. They got taught the right way, but then they're getting taught the wrong way in other places. And you say, no, I homeschool my kid. It don't matter what you did. They will be surrounded by it. So it's a different experience, and it is not ours. It's totally different. You know what I'm saying? The way that we get it and the way that they get it. You know what I'm saying? So there's something there. The spoon is something, you know?
Especially since a lot of that stuff is so much more appealing to a kid, right? Like,
Sure.
kids have one kid in school that doesn't celebrate Christmas. That kind of sucks.
Yeah.
No gifts, no
And
toys.
that's why the father was always blending. You know, he was always doing certain things. Like he bought the children gifts for Christmas and things like that. You know what I'm saying? He celebrated those things. He gave them gifts if they gave him gifts. You know, he wasn't like, you're gonna be Jehovah and all these. You know, if that was the case, there'd be a million things that would be unworthy of having children celebrate. You know what I'm saying?
And then your kid's childhood sucks because you stop celebrating anything.
Right? Yeah.
Which so you kind of like
Yeah.
cut
It'd be
yourself
like
with
my
that.
dad said I was the greatest though, but my childhood wasn't. You know what I mean?
That's just sometimes
I'm the greatest, but it was the worst. You know what I mean? Like
my favorite holiday to celebrate is Thanksgiving. Not because I like giving polio to Indians, but because how do you celebrate Thanksgiving, right? You get a bunch of people that you know that you probably haven't seen in months or since last Thanksgiving, right? You all sit around, y'all eat, y'all catch up, y'all talk, you run through your little catalog. You know what I'm saying? You watch some football and shit, everybody's cheering together. Like, the point of the holiday is to have a good time. The origin of the holiday is kind of irrelevant because even the origin of the holiday is in and of itself a myth. That's not how that holiday started at all.
And Rio says that knowing that Thanksgiving is the holiday I
That
hate
you hate the most, yeah. That's why I picked that one.
So
Like, I could have said Juneteenth, but where's the fun in that, right?
So that political destruction that they made a national holiday.
Yeah, well, there's a Nat Turner flavored ice cream now, so
Oh, really?
you know, he loves the devil because the devil gives him nothing. That is actively giving someone nothing right there. You said, I don't want to be shot by police when I'm unarmed. And they said the best I could do is Nancy Pelosi and a dashiki and a Nat Turner flavored ice
that
cream.
picture where they're all there, the politicians, Pelosi, and all
Yo,
of
my
them,
life
they're
wasn't
kneeling
complete
and
without that, but
dashikis,
now,
that shit was-
yo, racism's over, bro. Nancy Pelosi and a dashiki. Come so far.
Yeah.
We'll bring that photo to the bank. You get all kinds of good
See,
work
real, I see,
rates.
that's the some shit I would see you wearing on a t-shirt.
Yeah, right.
Put that in a cap and shit.
Nancy Pelosi.
Nancy Pelosi like this. Then.
So that's my favorite example too. If he loves the devil because the devil gives him nothing.
Yeah, no,
Because a lot of
that's
people
perfect.
misunderstand that to
Yeah.
mean like not give you anything,
No,
and then that
yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
make any sense. But there's no actively giving you nothing
Yeah, yeah.
will make you love somebody because
It's something.
you always want something, but you keep you keep feeling like it was a near miss.
Right.
So that keeps you coming back and asking for more. You know, like that chick that if you buy a dinner, maybe you'll see her feet. You know what I mean? Like, so I'm gonna buy you dessert too. Oh, I got some ankle. You know what I mean? It's a lot of nothing,
Right.
but that's that's like a real thing that pimps tell they hoes too. Like the less you give these niggas, the more money they gonna give you. So maintain eye contact and don't give them shit until you get paid, and then only give them a little bit. You know.
All right, let me go through some of these questions. All right. Malik, you said who prescribed the laws and were they always there? Well, I hope that what I said about laws explains it though. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to teach you that someone was on a mountaintop saying these are the laws. You know what I'm saying? It's not. The laws are just an identification of what is natural. What is. All right, let me see what else is here. There was something. Self I Build, you said what changes if the music is being more technologically enhanced? Do the young growing up without being aware of a time before these technological enhancements suffer? If so, why? They do suffer because it stifles creation and creativity in a lot of ways. You know what I mean? So it's not that technology shouldn't be used. You know what I'm saying? It's just that it's not being used creatively.
Takes away some of the social aspect of making music too.
Yeah, that too. Definitely.
Peace, God.
Peace.
Peace, God. Yo, Saturday, I'm dragging you out there.
All right, yo, peace.
Peace.
Yeah, King said they suffer from not knowing about the organic creative process, and their sound becomes synthetic, mechanical, easy to duplicate. And that's really what labels want, something duplicatable. Make the artist is no longer artist, he's a performer and he's disposable. You know what I mean? Self I Build, okay, this was to King. Okay. All right, that was all the questions here. I'm gonna put my email in here just in case. Not in case, but everybody to contact me outside of the classroom. Okay.
I think that's the biggest drawback to synthetic music is that it takes away the social aspect.
Yeah.
Because like I like producing stuff on machines. It's fun. I love my MPC. I'm never gonna say it. But when I'm locked in with my drummer and my fingers are doing what I want them to do on my bass.
Yeah, that's a
that
different
shit's
feeling.
such
There has
an
to be a different
amazing
feeling, right?
Yeah. Like it's such a social thing. Like it's the most locked in step. You know what I mean?
You know, it's you talk about, you always remind me of salsa just because of your legacy and stuff, right? I always tell people like salsa has so many percussion instruments and then other instruments being percussion when they don't normally are, like pianos and even the horn sections are blaring.
Yeah, everything's a drum.
Right? Everything really is hit like percussion. If you ever listen to a salsa band that isn't that good and just learning, you see how hard it is to blend all this shit together, though. Because it could really just be blaring noise. Like, it really, like, blends in like crayons, all the crayons together and shit like that. You know what I mean? but when it's in sync, and it's
all the
something.
polyrhythms.
Oh yeah.
You
know what I mean?
look over and you see the guy playing the whatever, and you're playing the
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Oh yeah, we're doing it.
It's a communication.
get
thing
that.
also.
Yeah, and you can't do that. Like, there's no other.
I think that one thing about the digital stuff is that there is a beauty to the arrangement process. You know what I'm saying? So this stuff didn't really start with hip hop. You know what I'm saying? Miles Davis's engineer, what was his name? I think it was Tessera or something like that. He was the one that was really like sampling parts of the sessions. So by the 70s, Miles was just record. You go in there and they just play and they record. So they're recording hours and hours, and he would take chunks. And so like in a Silent Way album, it's actually 2 loops like that. And that's like a first loop. It's just that you don't notice because the loops is like 10 minutes long for a 20-minute song. So that's not the way our mind sees it in hip hop. So we don't see the loop. Then Black Saint and the Sinner Lady, Charles Mingus, he was recording certain parts and blending other solos in to the mix from what was there already. You know what I mean? And that's my favorite album, is Black Saint and the Sinner Lady. So like they were doing stuff that wasn't really like you do in a real jazz situation, but they were adding on, you know. Eddie Palm 82, right? The whole unfinished masterpiece stuff.
Yeah.
They didn't even let him finish that shit, but he was putting things together like that. But they was like, oh, it's good, we'll sell it. You know what I mean? And they took it from him, you know? So it could be a good thing. It's nice to see that, but it's on the digital side, you know? But there's no interaction and shit.
Yeah, you see live music just becoming more and more phased out, and
yeah,
you know, especially like with the advent of like all this AI art when it comes to AI writing, AI music, AI painting. Why are we training machines to do the only things that separate us from monkeys? Like, well, really? We got real problems, and we're not putting the AI to solve that. Instead,
I'll tell you this though, and I was saying this in another class session. Our people, especially here in the US, the institution of arts, particularly like music, for example, is so huge that it affects the cultures of the whole world. And if you AI that, you have a lot of power over us even more so. That if our creativity is irrelevant, though, that is a big blow. That is a really big blow.
What are we left with?
You know what I'm saying? Because our creativity, though, is actually the biggest commodity that is sold out of this country. It's billions and billions of dollars. And mentally, influence over other countries' will to see the U.S. as the top. The U.S. is not the top. It hasn't been the top country for a long time. But it's still seen that way because what? The propaganda of a nation. And most of the propaganda of a nation comes from the coolness of the arts that we throw out there. So our most diluted pop bullshit is what everybody loves. Oh, American pop, you know, since every movie about Vietnam was showing you, you know, oh, American pop, and then I went to kill like an American, you know, and shit like that, right? But this has been influencing people's good. They get blown away that Americans are assholes, you know what I'm saying? Or Americans are this, right? Right? Because that propaganda, remember, like I was saying, military warfare, the major thing is to win the minds and hearts and minds of the people, not the people in your country that you're fighting for, the people in the other country. In the other country. Man, they're attacking us though, but man, it kind of, you know what I'm saying? This is powerful, man. Nowadays, it goes even different, right? We talk about the most important things about the dollar and things like that. Look at Ukraine, though. They did tons of devilishment. They're the ones that provoked the whole war with Russia, right? They provoked it, right? Because Russia said, listen, if you keep doing things with NATO and if you keep being proxy to NATO, we're not going to feel that because you're going to be encroaching with us, and that's an enemy. We have to stop you from doing that. They were like, having a good fuck. Now they're in there. You know what I'm saying? So they started the war. Of course, Russia's doing devilishment in turn too, right? But what is the propaganda here? They're trying to win the hearts and they're trying to have us have the hearts and minds toward the Ukrainian people. You know what I'm saying? And in Ukraine, they're doing the same. They want their hearts and minds of America. You know what I'm saying? And they're doing that because you give billions of dollars to them, they'll be like,
what's
wow.
weird too is that the money we give in foreign aid is not, we're just handing out cash, like, hey, go buy some sneakers. A lot of that is like, well, we gave foreign aid in this much money, but we set up a McDonald's. That's what that was. That was the foreign aid. We set up a McDonald's. Yeah. We built a Walmart.
So in other words, we still getting paid off of whatever.
Yeah, we're
Well,
getting
what
paid
was
off
the
that,
goal?
yeah,
The goal of NATO is really like a U.S. arm to be around every other place without being there. So they want to be all over the world without having to be there, right? Because the U.S. land can't just go everywhere and extend and take all the land. Then they could be everywhere with bases and whatever. If they own Ukraine and Ukraine has a tap in on Russia, then they have eyes on Russia. And that comes closer and closer to taking over. People forget Russia has a greater economy than we do. They have bigger economy. They're more self-sustaining because there's so much land, there's so much food, agriculture, they have everything. You know what I mean? All the prices of food are going up here isn't because we're winning the war in Ukraine. It's because we're losing it. And Russia has all it needs. You know what I mean? But we don't know that though because we watch movies though and the Russian is stupid.
They're evil because they got that accent.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
It's fucking sinister as shit.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Every Russian is evil.
If he dies, he dies.
I was
Yeah.
Dragon will kill a power.
Right?
That was the problem.
You always see movies, right? They're the Russian spies. They always do nonsensical killing. You know what I mean? Like, no, we can still use them. No, we'd kill everybody. Boom. Women, children. They do everything illogical, until Jack Bauer comes, you know what I mean? And saves everybody.
And Rocky wasn't his opponent from Russia.
Yeah. That propaganda, the propaganda of Russia, the propaganda of the Middle East, though, that's going everywhere. But how many?
Red Dawn when we were kids?
Right.
Tanks in the street.
Yeah. You know, fucking Chuck Norris killed 1 million people in the Middle East. You know what I'm saying?
Single
Right?
handedly.
Yeah, of course.
He's a bad motherfucker.
Yeah, you know, they're killing everybody. You know, whoever they demonize though is demonized well. That's what I said. Look,
For a while.
one of the greatest propaganda tools was film. You know, was film. All these great actors are
Birth
propaganda,
of the Nation.
right?
The
Yeah.
OG propaganda.
From then on, right? I love Bogart movies, but most all of them are propaganda movies. You know what I'm saying? Casablanca is a propaganda movie. You know,
Absolutely.
I love that movie though. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see that. Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool.
There's nothing new though.
Yeah. So
That's
all of
always
it's
been, yeah.
That's why it's so hard for us to creep into film and TV and stuff. It's a propaganda art form. You know what I'm saying? So it can't be used. That's why they go, oh, Black Americans, we are in a lot of shit, right? Latinos aren't in all. It's too complex to put us in things regularly. That dynamic.
Goofiest
right?
stereotypes.
Black Americans are all over TV and film, but it's always like generic romantic comedies. You know what I'm saying? Right? That's a big field. That's like the chunk. Right? That's most of the chunk. You know what I mean? Most of the shows, right? How many black women shows of black professionals? I haven't bumped into one chick in Harlem that is like the women in Harlem. I haven't bumped into one.
Yo, dead ass.
Yo,
I haven't I've been in Harlem for 23 years though, right? Maybe it's because I'm Puerto Rican. I'm too light skinned. I don't bump into these chicks. I don't know. But,
I got you, God.
I don't know. You know? Maybe the trolls can help me. But yeah. But it's all propaganda. It always gives you one side. You know, even if you said that's a real side, they show you one real side. It's not enough sides. You know what I'm saying?
Most of the money and stuff.
Yeah.
You know what I mean, like you're not gonna. If you're wealthy enough to invest money into something that's gonna take that much money to invest to get it off the ground, you're not gonna invest in something that's not gonna return.
Yeah.
Your profit.
And that's the thing about capitalism, right? You're always justified to making product that will serve the market. You see what I'm saying? But every other product that just went into the market was serving the market against your will. You see what I'm saying? So you continue to promote it though. Even when you find a niche though, it's basically a propaganda niche. You know what I mean? So it's all evil, and the point is though that Fidel was right.
So don't buy that.
Sunez
Yeah.
Allah.
Peace, God. I'll be back.
It's weird how consumers to music is these days too.
At all, Lord.
Like the whole shit is just an ad for overpriced bullshit. Like almost everything that you hear that's popular. You know, I mean, even stuff that I like. Like I'm not gonna lie. Like I can sit there and listen to like 10 West Side Gun albums in a row. It makes me feel really shitty about my $60 pants.
Yeah, brothers is flying.
Yo, that right? Like you feel if you wear like a pair of kicks that was less than a certain price, and like you don't get it. I don't own stock in Nike. You own stock in Nike? I don't own stock in Nike, right? But like even shit that we like, spend $3,000 on sneakers. Here's the price tag. Like, damn, really? It's crazy.
Shoot, but what time does this usually conclude?
About 9, 10. About usually about it's usually about 6 to 8.
Yeah, you just sometimes you go over.
But sometimes we just be building so much it just.
Shit, you should have seen when Sal was alive. Me and Sal, we cracking jokes and class and shit would go to like 10:30, 11.
Actually, we went to about like 10 o'clock.
Yeah.
I think that was the latest we went. That's the latest we went. The class ended at 10. That was the latest.
I'm definitely be back. It takes me like an hour to get here.
Damn, where you coming from?
From Brooklyn, bro.
Like over Brooklyn?
I'm from Brooklyn, but I live here, yeah.
What train you take?
The 3.
3? Oh,
man.
You gotta do it.
Leeds?
Gotta do it.
Kind of high school that
Oh, you gotta do
Eastern
it.
Parkway.
Yeah. That's
I'm in Brooklyn too and shit. But I'm on the other side. You know what I mean? But
right there, P.E.A.C.E.
I know that travel.
Few steps away.
Yeah.
I know that travel.
It's alright though. I hop on the 3. I just close my eyes. I wake
Throw
up.
some music on.
Yeah, that's it.
What you reading these days?
Well, I'm reading damn, bro. I ain't really been reading much, bro. I keep it 100 with you, bro.
So now got a whole bunch of books for you. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
He got your
The Knowledge of Self book is a good collection of essays, and it gives you a broad cross section of different opinions from. Because there's like, how many different authors is in that book?
Sunez got your
At least
email.
15 or something like that. Yeah.
Sunez got your email.
Nah, I got introduced to like 5% of these.
Well, Sunez, let's give Sunez your email. He gonna get. I didn't finish reading it. I got to get back into it, but I gotta finish reading Message to the Black
Yeah,
Man.
it's a great book.
I read How to Hustle and Win, but that was like.
You gotta read Message to the Black Man because the first couple of lines is going to make you think differently about Christianity.
Oh yeah, it's a great book.
Man.
It's going to make you look at Christianity like, oh, hold on, this is what they was teaching me when I was little. It don't make sense.
Yeah. Because the cross is a symbol of death, and the sun, moon, and stars are symbols of the universe.
And how is the Holy Trinity, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, and they make one.
Where's the woman?
Well, not only where's the woman and the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, how does 3 go into 1? It's impossible.
That's right, God.
How does 3 go into 1?
Yeah.
I mean, this is what they telling you in the church, that the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost make one. How is that mathematically possible? It's not. That right there alone, you have to question everything.
It's like, I don't know. It don't make sense. Men can't, it's just, I already have my stance on it.
Right.
I don't really agree with, you know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
That was professed by a white person.
The black man is God.
That religion, bro.
The black man is God. I had to realize that. Just you know what made me realize the black man is God before you were getting true knowledge of myself. I just had to realize like something has to be specific with this man because everybody hates him for nothing. Like just everybody hate him. Even black people hate him. Everybody hate the black man. Everybody hate him. So I said, yo, it got to be something about this man that's special, man. I mean, he don't even be doing nothing and people hate him. He be minding his business. He hate him, like, yo, what the fuck is the problem?
That ass.
I'm like, yo, it got to be something that's specifically special about the original man because everybody just fuck with him, poke at him, pick with him for no fucking reason.
You know what I think some of it is? There's a lot of people just as individuals do the same, man. Like, so say I step on your kick something. You're mad. But like I'm too tough to acknowledge that I was in the wrong. Cause
you know how to fight.
Man, so fuck you. So now I'm worried that you don't want your get back. So now I'm gonna hit you harder. But now you got 2 hits that you owe me. Shit, I can't have that. So now I'm gonna hit you harder. now you got 3 hits, and so on and so forth, because I'm so worried about what you're gonna do to me because of my initial transgression that I just gotta keep attacking you so that you don't get the chance to regroup and attack me back. And I think that that's really a lot.
I was thinking about something like that today. I was like, like imagine the U.S. just said, you know what, you got just spoke about like the indigenous people here and the Moors being here prior, like that would take away so much power from them also, So it's like they don't want to give up their power, and then they did so much evil that they always looking like, they
What
got
are they gonna do if you give them the chance to get the hit back?
because a lot of it's out of fear, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
A lot of
Like the acres they own.
Yeah, it's never gonna get paid. Well, they're doing a reparations bill in Cali, but I don't see that ending the way I think people want it to end. Because if you well, think about it
money
too,
about to
right?
be out of style.
Let's say you give-
reparations.
Let's say you give every black man in California, both of them these days, right? It's the most gentrified state in the fucking union. So you give all 5 black people left in California, you give them money, right? Cool. What are the poor whites how are they gonna feel about that? You don't think that's gonna result in a lot of gun violence? Like, you know how many fucking separatist groups and KKK style groups are in Cali? Like, not all of Cali is LA and Oakland. Most of Cali is rednecks. Like in these little fucking redneck towns where you're just like, well, fuck, you don't show us on TV.
How much money you still want giving to people?
Yo, even if it's $5, it's gonna piss somebody off. You know what I mean?
How much is enough money? Because we got, land was taken like Black
Mm.
Wall Street. I mean, how do you give somebody how you give somebody $100,000 and say here's reparation? And had those institutions still
All they gonna do
in
is
place,
give it back.
it would have been exactly
Yeah.
back to them anyway.
All they gonna do is spend it back.
Well, the
Institutions
proposal
right
that it deals with like setting up institutions, things like that, educational grants, things like housing, stuff like that. But again, all you're gonna do is piss off already violent people who are now going to become more violent. You know what I mean? Like when Black Lives Matter came out, now all of a sudden you got people screaming all lives. I mean, you didn't give a fuck about no lives 10 minutes ago, and now all of a sudden it's all lives. Like people feel like they're missing something. They're not getting their little slice of the pie, and that's how they react. So it's like you have all these problems, but the solutions are going to create more problems.
Right, because I mean, imagine if now say like I said, institutions we given right, hospitals, schools, banks. Now that's gonna take out of their pocket.
Yeah.
You really think they're gonna try to have us self-sufficient?
No, of course not. And not only that, but like, let's say you set up some really good schools in some black neighborhoods, right? Free education. Cool. How long do you think that's gonna stay a black neighborhood? Remember when Harlem was a black neighborhood?
I sure do. I sure used to.
Like you realize in 20 years it's gonna be really difficult to explain why Malcolm had a mosque in such a white ass neighborhood. You understand? Like when they changed MLK to Robert E. Lee.
When they changed the whole 125th Street to the East Village.
Like I heard like in the history of Harlem, there was like several opera houses.
Yeah,
It was like it actually ran as its own.
Yeah.
It was. Come on.
It could have been its own state, basically.
Yeah, no, but ever since across the street, ever since they moved in across the street, it's
I
just spread like
personally
wildfire.
think integration was the worst thing that ever happened to religion.
Yeah, absolutely.
Was the worst thing that ever happened. Like I don't have an issue with it. I'm more for separation. Because the thing is, when you talk about separation with white people, the first thing they say is when you say separation, they say segregation. That's when you speak separation.
It's not so much the integration. It's the destruction of our institutions to integrate into their institutions.
Right.
And if they had done it like, we're going to do integration now. So you guys are going to build up your institutions and we're going to engage in yours. That would
That's not how
that would be nice though.
It went down. You go to a white doctor.
Yeah.
Give me the fucking money.
Exactly. I mean, a lot of cultures they make money off of black people, like Chinese people, Chinese store.
Chinese people have schools in their country on what to do for when they come here, on how to get us to spend our money.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
But part of that's on us though, because look, I tell this to American Black business owners that I meet that are doing like a startup business all the time. The Spanish business model, correct me if I'm wrong, you walk into a Puerto Rican or Dominican kitchen, do you see prices on the menu? No. You are charged a translation fee if you order in English. Am I bugging? Right? Every Spanish person knows, even if you don't speak Spanish, you know enough to order food, because if you want your food for the right price, you gotta order that shit in Spanish. Right? So a lot of times what happens is a black dude starts a business, well, American black dude starts a business, because you don't see it as much in the African communities and Caribbean communities. American black dude starts a business. Everybody wants what he wants to charge $10 for it because he's spending whatever and he's got to make a profit. He's got bills to pay. He's not running a charity. He's running a business, right? So he wants to charge $10. Yo, why you don't let me get it for $5? Yo, why you don't let me get it for $5? And then instead of giving him the 10, they're gonna buy it off a white man for 15, right? So instead, I tell him, yo, instead of offering black people a discount, do what we do. Charge white people more. Simple as that. Just charge a translation fee. You know what I'm saying? They'll feel like they're getting a discount and you're not losing any of your profits, because we don't support each other's businesses. We call each other lazy. We say it's shittily crafted. We don't want to support it. So
Just don't, it's just something in the psyche that we just don't like each other. It's like how many times you walk down the street and somebody's looking at you with the tough, ill, ugly face, like you really feel that way about me, like you're really walking around like this, you really feel that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just basically that's what it is. You just don't like each other. But when them other people come around, it's okay. You know what I'm saying? It's all peace, and you know what I mean? You're not gonna do that on what you do to the person that look like you.
I think some of that is fear-based too.
That's a fact.
Because like I know I walk around my hood with an ice cream because, you know, I want these crackheads to know that it's my car and I know your face.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, but if I go into a white neighborhood, like when I moved to Scottsdale, which is like, excuse me,
Mm-hmm.
right? My kid's mom would constantly be told by the neighbors that the cleaning lady shouldn't be getting the mail. It's one of those type of neighborhoods, right? When they would give me dirty looks, I'll be afraid to look at them dirty back. Not because of what they'll do. I'll fight one of these white folks. I don't give a fuck about that, but I'm not fighting 6 cops. That's not, I'm not gonna win that fight. It's not gonna happen. You know, as opposed to like the South Bronx. If we beat the shit out of each other, nobody's calling the cops. We can be punching each other in the face for hours. Nobody's gonna say shit about it. So I think a lot of that is fear. Like, you know, you smile at white people because it could be dangerous not to. But to us, I don't know this dude. He might
a
want
lot of stuff too is like the intra original people beefs. You know, Middle Easterners with the delis, Asians with the nail shops, Chinese food, shit like that. What people forgetting is that they do come here with capital, and this country throughout their history has always played that off of each other. So they have given things to Asians that are the poorest Asians so they can make their own businesses and shit like that. You know what I mean? So it's not like they didn't deserve it or they didn't earn it, though. It's that they only give it to them. You know what I mean? Whereas they don't give it to us. You know what I'm saying?
capitalism needs a designated bottom.
Yeah.
And the easiest way to separate a designated bottom is by people who look different.
Yeah. That happens enough times though. You even distrust your own people when you get a business because like how the hell did they do it though? It's almost unfair. And then usually most of the businesses though, when you say like, oh, it's badly crafted and stuff like that, a lot of that stuff is true. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Black American business are trash. I don't want t-shirts with every single thing ever invented written on it. That's not the type of, I don't want to wear that. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to wear champion sweats with something else written on it. You know what I'm saying? That's the same shit. And so it's not as innovative as people think. So we have a lot of cannibalism in the businesses. You know what I mean? But at the same time, though, like when people think of these businesses, we're doing it and we're trying to exploit something out of our people because it's the only models that we see around ourselves. What would be, you model yourself after what? The businesses that are working. What businesses are working? Other businesses like the delis, the Chinese restaurants, all that they're exploitative though. You know?
Yeah, word.
No, everybody deep down, when they really think about it, they don't think about it. But when they think about it, they know that Chinese people aren't eating this shit.
Nah,
You know what I'm saying?
Chinese people get surprised when you order actual Chinese food at a Chinese restaurant. They look at you like,
Listen,
you must have been there.
When I started to go vegan, and I said, I want the brown rice that's on this thing. They're like, well, it was like a kung fu movie. Well, now, right? Because that's some small shit. They even had the tiniest rice. I never saw a rice cooker that little.
Right? It's the family that owns it.
Oh, man.
It's the personal bag.
Right?
I mean, if you see them eating something, they eating rice.
Yeah.
When I see them
It's
eat,
But
just
they're
rice,
not-
vegetables, and garbage.
Yeah.
That's all I eat.
rice and vegetables. That's all I see them eat.
If you order bean curd, they look at you like, okay, all right. You know, and less now because it's more popular and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But these are things that these were like the bargain basement foods that these were made that average people would like it and stuff. You know what I'm saying? But you got to understand that original people throughout American history have always been played off each other. You know what I'm saying? When something is given to the Chinese, though, something is taken away from the Latin. When something's given to the Black American, something is taken away from these people. You know what I'm saying? It's always something. You know?
That's like a divide and conquer.
That's why you have to constantly think of the lessons, though, because the lessons remind you of the macro reality. You know what I'm saying? The macro reality, though. You see these Arabs, though, the Arabs are always exploiting, though. You know what I'm saying? Those individuals. And of course, there's always someone in that store working that has become like the pizzeria and do the right thing, where they're looking down at you and shit like that. And it's really annoying as he serves you pizza. You know what I'm saying, right? It's always like that, right? There's always somebody like that. These are the individuals, though. But when we look at it, though, in the larger perspective, though, you know that they're coming from some place where they blew the hell out of their own home. You know what I'm saying? They came from a place where drones are there. You know what I'm saying? And shit like that. And one of the things that is about mental slavery is that our people don't really know physical slavery like that.
Right.
And this is also a thing that keeps us behind in some ways of drive and shit like that from other people. The mental slavery will have you lackadaisical, lazy, and real weak.
Well, the threat of violence
You know?
is more effective than violence.
You know? But where a lot of these people are coming from, though, they come from places that are in the potential of danger. You know what I'm saying? Or real danger. You know what I'm saying? So they give it their all here because this is it. This really is American dream. We know it's bullshit, though, so we don't even respect it. And we don't respect ourselves for even being in this shit. You know? And then you come, I'm just saying, in the mind of 85, you come with your stupid ass t-shirt with some shit written on it. And now I have to, I hate black people because I didn't get your merch. Merch that I can't wear to any kind of office that I go to or any kind of shit. You know what I mean? Right? You want to make your sneaker, though, and it looks just like Jordans, but without the fucking swoop. You know?
It was like Bapes or something. It was just uptowns with it.
You remember he was doing this though. My son was like, "I'm burning all my Jordans and shit like that," and I was like, "Hey, you could have at least eBay that shit, right?" But like my son was burning all his Nikes and showing you all these other black designers though, and I was like, "Yo, that shit looks like this. That shit looks like that. Even polo sneakers look like other shit,
Yeah.
right? That looks like two-stripe Adidas though. I don't want that, like." So it's the thing. I'm not saying that people can't make things. I'm people that it's just that we only deal with oversaturation. We're always oversaturated, and we get rewarded for that, though. You know what I'm saying?
Part of that too, like Frank
Right?
Zappa talks about that in his book. He talks about how like all pop music sounds the same. It's just that recognition and familiarity makes people comfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I mean?
No, it's always been a thing.
That
Yeah.
goes to everything.
I understood it though, but I had like that one lone tear that came down my when I saw Marley Marl and he was talking about you gotta have a familiarity. So in all my music, I always put one thing that's always the same. And he was talking about like the drum pattern. There's a certain type of drum pattern he'll use again and again all the
And,
time.
like, it's smart, but at the same
Right.
time, it's also like.
But it also
not-
made like
yeah.
the creativity of everything, and I just you know.
Damn, it's Marley Marl.
But there's always a pop element to what he's saying. There's always You have to have a niche. You always have to have something, you know.
I feel like that's the
Capitalism
easiest
doesn't
way.
reward creativity like that. It rewards the rush of creativity, the first creativity.
It
Doesn't
rewards
really-
creativity in advertising.
Yeah.
It doesn't reward creativity.
Right.
It doesn't reward innovation
Yeah.
in product making. It rewards
It-
advertising.
That's why in car commercials, that's the word that they use the most. You know what I mean? Like, right? They always say that innovation.
It's only some useless.
It's the last thing. All the cars look the same. You know
It's
what
like
I'm
electric shavers.
saying?
Let's get the Relco. You're driving a Relco.
Yeah.
I feel like that's the easiest way for a
Yeah.
trend to be done with, though.
No, but that's a big thing. Like what the God said, like people look at you with hate, right? You were saying they we look at each other with hate. We have a lot of hatred. You know what I'm saying? And look, I make things though. I definitely make things nobody ever made before. So it's not like I could say like, oh no, I'm not. The shit doesn't exist. I made it up, and I get hate too. I still get hate. You know what I'm saying? So it's just a thing that we have because now we're mad. Oh, he's doing it. You know what I'm saying? Right?
That bravado shit.
And it's crabs in the barrel thing. You know what I'm saying? Crabs in the barrel thing.
Yeah, that's a dangerous mentality too. That bravado shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's no way to look intelligent while beating your chest.
Do you feel like that's a natural thing within the human psyche, or is
No.
it
I think
only
it's
negative?
I think it's natural in the cipher that's been created. One of survival. Right? We're in the cipher of survival, not thriving. You know what I'm saying? So the forms and the opportunity for someone to just create new things, and what comes with that? The failure of the road of failure in creating new things. You know, we want innovation, but innovation has a long road of failure. You know,
Facts.
people go, looks like I said, I made something new. I write in a way that people don't write. I wrote about things people don't. I've been writing for almost 30 years. You know what I'm saying? I got a big catalog of whack shit at home.
Stashed on
Right? Yeah, people. I'm on journal 70, right? But we read journal 1. I read that one. That was very mortal. I'll leave it like that. It's very mortal. You know?
a dear journal.
I don't know who I'm talking to. It's
I
like,
had a thought today.
yeah. No, a lot of my entries in the beginning, like in the 90s when I started writing, I was like, I don't know what to write today. I am only writing to get these pages done. Like,
I would love to see someone
Right?
really soon as browse.
I don't know what this degree means. I am just writing it down again. I don't.
I know you're familiar with like the Afro beats, right?
Yes.
Afro beats, and if you look at like where they came from, like started
Like fusing, like hip hop or
Right.
reggae, it was sounded crazy.
and now you got what it is today. But even now today, like it all sounds, in my opinion, it kind of like all sounds the same.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, it's like,
There's been no follow up to Fail.
yeah, I'm like,
That's
what the-
what-
it's like it all sounds the
Yeah.
same. Like, you
Yeah.
play one
But
song,
this
one
is-
song,
but this
like,
is just
it's
what people do. Like when they see something that's popping,
Right.
they follow the trend. That's why when New York started following trends, whoever was the power that be that made it like that, they knew that once they got New York to follow the trends, it was over. It was over. Once you got New York gang banging and making all types of gang banging, making drill music, making down south music, it's rare you come across a New Yorker that makes official New York hip hop. It's rare. Everybody's doing everything everybody else doing, and New York is the mecca of the world. And it's following what everybody else is. Once that happened with New York, it was over.
Yeah, boom bap is like a dated art form at this point.
The younger generation came about to boom bap.
Nah, it's
you know what I mean? Like,
you know what they say?
boom bap,
They hear that
hip hop
shit,
got
like,
a
that shit is
certain
whack. What the
nod
fuck?
to it. The younger generation wants.
I
You play
noticed that
certain shit,
a
they
lot of
be like,
young people
they don't even know how to move
that
to it.
rhythm. Yeah.
And also, as soon as like, when we talking about the technology, you know, the way certain songs was mixed back then, and the lack of technology that they have today, like people, like the younger generation that is wouldn't even want to hear that because it doesn't. It's not like
It's
digitized.
It's not the lack of
Don't
technology.
resonate.
I wouldn't say the lack of technology. I would say the way technology has evolved and the way that it hasn't been used properly.
Not the lack, but like
The way songs are mixed and mastered today is different from
Mhm.
20 years ago. You know, like it's totally different. Like you can play 2 songs back to back and you know like it's a difference.
Well, for
What you
example,
hear.
though, because it's not analog anymore,
Exactly.
you don't have to alter things to get the pure sound. Now it's so digital that it gets exactly what you recorded. So engineers don't have to have their own special way of doing it. They can all do it the same way. You know what I mean?
Cookie cutter.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. You know, because you get the digital pure sound. You get what you heard properly. You know what I'm saying?
And then when you hear like mistakes, you don't want to hear that. But in order for something to be like truly good and like you get that soul, you want to hear something like you were saying.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
not the exact note. It might be a little off. That's
It's funny because a lot of people when they say, like for example, they're saying best producers and stuff like that, and they weren't mentioning RZA, and someone saying because he has to play each drum hit separately, and that's not good, and that's not. But when he was doing that, it gave the sound that rawness, like it gave because your individual timing could never be as precise as the machine. So it's gonna have some off things, you know what I'm saying? And that makes the record sound dope.
Well, he also like purposefully did a lot of like just like punk rock sort of.
Yeah,
like they even show it in the show, and he's like, "No, turn it up," and he's like, "No, the red lines," and he's like, "Yeah, I want it to red line."
Yeah,
it's such a punk thing, like where you want it to sound like it was recorded for $5 in somebody's mom's basement.
Yeah, but that's a thing, right? In all the genres of us, right? There's you play with discordance, you know what I'm saying, and you play with dissonance, going off, slightly off, the Thelonious Monks, the RZAs, right? They try something that veers a little off, you know what I'm saying? I mean, really, when you think about it, what is a scratch? Scratching a record is actually discord. It is ruining the rhythm, like, right? Isn't that ruining the rhythm?
That's the whole thing.
That's not how the record goes.
Like you can scratch on rhythm, but the fact that someone was like, "Yo,"
but the first scratch, though, no matter what, is off rhythm, even if he dove in at the right time. You know what I'm saying? Right. Because it's like, what the right?
You're not supposed to do that with the record.
Who the fuck thought to do that and thought it was
And it only gets rhythm though because you go into discord and you have to come back. So you have scratching of any kind is a counter rhythm.
That's true.
Right?
That's true.
But that shit is wild, man.
Yeah.
Like that shit really wild. I can't think of any other non-instrument type of thing that became an instrument in a sense, other than a turntable when they
That's
crazy with fucking vinyl record. It's wild.
That's why
I think
to like. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was saying the gloom and doom is not that there isn't this music out there, right? If not, I would have had smaller books. I would have run faster. The book would have been smaller. It wouldn't have been 500 pages, though. You know what I'm saying?
Words.
It took a whole year.
Right? Like so, when I write about the best hip hop all year round, like it takes me all year to write this shit. But the thing is, though, is that now the idea was that you flood the market and you put a little responsibility on the individual to find their shit. But nobody wants that responsibility, so they let the algorithm do it. You know what I'm saying? And the funny thing about the algorithm is that it's a liar, though. Don't say I play Aretha Franklin, though, and that fucking trap shit is not the algorithm, but it's suggested to me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it suggests shit to me that's bullshit. I said, that's not my algorithm. I didn't play anything even close to that shit. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you might like this. No, you're off. Like, you don't know me. You know what I mean? It's like the Ray Charles, you don't know me. Right? I'm like, yo, you don't know me, the algorithm.
Yo, but that shit sometimes scares the fuck out of me, right? Because like,
right. Oh no, when it does work though, it's creepy though.
No, not even
right.
That.
But
it be shit
I be unrelated to shit that you search, but
shit I thought of, bro.
Yeah.
Not unrelated to your phone usage. You know what I mean?
Sometimes it be something that somebody else
right? No, real
around,
shit.
and then it pop up.
Yo, I started. I was texting Royal Flush like 2 weeks ago about him doing a master class with this youth program that I work in to come. So I thought it'd be cool, like get like an actual professional MC who does this. Like, this is my job. Like how your teacher comes in and they teach you algebra.
Right.
My job is that I talk flying on beats. Right. So I thought it'd be cool, he'll come to the school, I'll introduce you to whatever. So texted back and forth a few times. Yo, ever since then, my YouTube is giving me so much random Royal Flush.
Yeah.
Words.
Right,
Like,
right,
yo,
right.
that's kind of creepy, yo.
Nah, but this is
They
what's
go,
going on.
but Google does not read your email content for the algorithm. No, but they do.
Or so
They
pick up some other
read your
shit.
text messages though,
They
right?
read your
Yeah.
text messages, your search engine,
Yeah.
all that
It
shit.
Your
takes in all that.
microphone is on.
Your mic
Yeah.
on, all that shit, like everything.
I get nothing but ads for fitteds and sneakers on my social media. I don't get advertised anything else besides fitteds and sneakers.
Come on your Instagram. all
I
that.
only get Ralph Lauren. That's it. It's Ralph all day.
It's
every
all
day.
polo, right?
Yeah, it's all polo on Facebook. It's polo. Yeah, that else. You know what I mean? But but that's what it is though. But like people don't want to do that work.
Because it's hard to find though.
But people-
it is hard to find.
This world of music that we're in, for example, right, where you go look for the music you like and everything like that. That I'm telling you straight up, that never existed. That never existed. When people that general populations, right, of our people, when we heard good music, it was because our neighborhood played them good music. Right? If people made good music in your hood, they were in your hood making good music and playing it though. Community music, shit like that, right? So this is the first time they're saying, listen, if you want good music though, you're gonna have to search outside of yourself, outside of your community, and through this world and find the music.
That's why this shit been.
That's stuff that for hip hop, we're used to that. We dig in the crates, so that's what we did.
Now, you gotta
But
look
it's
for
actually
the-
foreign to everybody else. So like my children, right? Like my children know and everything like that, and they're following the algorithms and shit, or they're right, and I'm looking at them like the spoons in my soup, right? But they could never grow up hip hop like we did, because even if they did hip hop, they never had it around them. You know what I'm saying? And they never did the things where like, yo, we look for records, we look for the type of music we want.
They'll never experience.
They don't have that, so it's actually more awkward for them to dig through things like this algorithm, dig through Spotify, dig through YouTube music, whatever it is, to find the music that is the best music that they would like the most. They just find something and hope that it continues to take them down, but they don't know how to go like rabbit holes like we had. That's the same. We innovate shit. They didn't think about this shit until we did it though. This whole idea of searching for the music you want though, that didn't exist until we showed them that. You know what I mean? Dig for the stuff you want. You know what I mean? You only had that with research. You know what I mean? With research.
The sheer amount of it makes it a daunting task.
Right. So that's why I say, look, if you're gonna be with 5%, so we teach the truth, we learn about ourselves, you have to learn how to go down rabbit holes in all the research you do. You have to learn how to continually search through things and find more about stuff. And you have to be well schooled about shit. Okay? So next class, I don't expect you to be like, yeah, I know as much hip hop as you see. You know, it's a fat chance, right? That you're gonna read all the stuff and everything like that, right? The thing is, though, is that you should be well schooled about a ton of different things, because they overlap, though, and they make you stronger in other pursuits. So the man that says, okay, I only know about what I think is important, though, and so he doesn't know about what quality music is, or whatever music he's listening to, he cannot describe. This is the point. He cannot describe why he likes this particular kind of song. So I do. I put a Fraser face, and I'm like, oh dear God, when my daughter plays certain songs, right? But she has to give me a reason why she likes those songs, no matter what. What do you like about that? You know what I'm saying? So even though, like, if she doesn't have this knowledge where she could quote all of 120, though, she's still inspected like a 5% in all the areas of life that she's engaging in, though. You know what I'm saying? Shit, and you should see when she decided to go on a date with the guy, she had to give me a whole thing, a whole mental lecture.
Doctoral thesis.
She had to give me a lecture about why this guy was worth going out. You know what I mean? The whole lecture.
What'd you grade her on it?
It's B.
It's B.
Yeah.
I have to start doing that with my daughter.
Oh, you got, yeah. My oldest is
I'm gonna need some advice.
21 and shit like that. You know what I mean? I can't just be like, I know how to kill him. I can kill him.
Yeah, that's not gonna work.
That's
the way. It's
not
gonna do the
enough,
opposite
man.
of what you wanted to do.
Yeah,
Right,
it doesn't
right.
work though.
And then you're gonna be watching the episode
Yeah.
of Maury.
No, it'll be because you send your kid to be Luke and Laura though. You'll never find this, and then just right. Yeah, that shit don't help.
I don't know about
You know, but you have to be well. I have a build. If you remind me, I'll email it to you. You know, the justice build, and it's basically to be well-rounded in all subject areas. And I just give you 10, but the whole idea is that we need to be well-rounded about things, because when you're well-read, it allows you to be more discerning about other fields that you're in, and so on and so forth. If you have a good musical ear, you also have a good ear for listening and communication. You also develop your ears for dialects and other people. You know what I'm saying? You also learn communication better, and you start to see bodily communication. You know what I'm saying? Just like if I learned Kung Fu, I didn't just learn how to fight and kill for the life of me. You know what I'm saying? I'm also better at seeing people's body language. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what we're doing. You know what I mean? Like in the Kung Fu movies, they drop the thing and the guy catches the cup. You know, it's good for regular life things. You know what I'm saying? Right? But the thing is that when you learn and you get detailed in life things, it turns you around. That's why I said, listen, nobody can come in here and say, Sunez will give you the answers to all things in life, though. You know what I'm saying? Unless now they make it epic, and then this becomes epic, and it's like Sunez has all the answers, you know? But because I spend my time being well-rounded and being able to articulate the details of why I like things, why I don't like things, why I see certain things, what I think about certain things, even about things I don't know, right? That makes you well-rounded enough to what? Be able to communicate about other things, and makes you more able to engage in conversations about all things. You know what I mean? So take everything seriously. Know that there's a high art in everything. Movies just aren't stupid movies. You know what I'm saying? So like, let's say you like Friday, that's your favorite movie though, but please don't act like Friday is high art. You know what I'm saying? You have to know what makes a movie high art, film high art, what makes a director, like, you know, this is the world we live in. You should know what a director does in a movie though, not just cut, action, and shit like that, right? Things like that. We should know these things. We should be as well-rounded as possible. You know what I mean? We're not gonna know everything. I don't know anything about cars and shit. I really suck at that shit. Right?
You feed them apples and hay, you'll be fine.
Right. Or any kind of food, right? Like the flux capacitor, right? It takes all kind of garbage, organic garbage, right? Yeah.
Just make sure you always address them as kid.
Right. You can't achieve everything. But like, what are the things that are around you the most that you should know about? You know what I'm saying? You know, a lot of the 5%ers, they're like, I make jokes about bad music and shit like that, right? But a lot of the 5%ers, they were great with the youth because they knew things about the youth, though, that they didn't care about. They themselves didn't give a shit about. But they knew about it. You know what I'm saying? Right? So sometimes these things become important, though. But there's a lot of things that you do and you engage in, and you look at it as like, well, I don't need to know about that. I just need to enjoy it here. Just like if you watch sports, though, you should have a good sense of the sport, right? Same thing with other things. You know what I mean? All of these things are important. They overlap. You know what I mean?
Well, especially when it comes to
Yeah.
to dealing with kids, like I trying to find a word more passionate than hate. For lack of a better word, I hate Jersey club music. Like I really,
That's so distinct. Right?
I'm sorry.
Well,
I'm
maybe,
sorry. if it
maybe
feels
the
the
house
type of way.
music. Well, house music is the biggest thing out there.
I fucking hate Jersey club music, but I listen to it at work, sometimes for a full period, while these kids do dances that make me want to stand on top of the desk and scream, "You look like a faggot, stop it." But
You mean drill music?
no, Jersey club music.
No,
They be dancing to it and they love it and they get all fucking sweaty because they dancing extra hard and they're making those faces at each other. Doing all this shit where I'm like, yo, you're fucking voguing. Like, stop it. I feel like Mr. Garrison, right? But you can't, but you gotta just kind of like pretend you enjoy it because it makes them happy. And with them being happy now, you can have a deeper conversation about whatever it is, whether it's the science of life or the science of science, and
Right.
why they need to pass science class.
Right. See, the younger child in their learning, they're finding a palette. So their palette is mad basic, though. So even though I bother my little ones all the time, like my niece and my daughter, I bother them all the time about the horrible selections of music. You know what I'm saying? I like to mess with them. The thing is that their palette is just identifying what they like. It's not broad enough to try things that they don't like, though. You know what I'm saying? And they get terrible with that. I can't even get them to watch new cartoons anymore. You know what I'm saying? I have to watch the same shit again and again, same episodes, you know? Right? But as we get older, though, we should be developing our palate for things. You know what I'm saying? When you're reading these books, right? All these books that I'm telling you to read and stuff like that, develop your palate, though. Read different types of books. You know what I'm saying? When you're listening to music, though, try different types of music, different, not just genres, but different tempos, different styles. You know what I mean? All these things. Change the palette, the way that you hear things. You know what I mean? What makes like children able to learn a lot of things, like languages, for example, right? Is because they have that ability to absorb all of this information easily. They haven't been defined yet. So what I mean by that is like when their palette for languages, for example, it hasn't been defined because when you learn something, you become rigid to that structure. The children doesn't have that structure yet, so they can hear all these different sounds, and it's okay that it doesn't just fit this one language. You know what I'm saying? That's at a very young age. You know what I'm saying? Once they hit like even late elementary school, they've already become a little bit more rigid. You know what I mean? Where it's like English only if they know and shit like that, right? So the same thing as an adult, we have to fight to keep that palate broad because we have become rigid to certain things.
Yo, facts.
Right? We become rigid though. So like when you listen to hip hop though, you always listen to the same shit. It's like, I'm not listening to that progressive bullshit though. Guys rhyming all stupid. You know what I'm saying? Right? But when you listen to it though, it extends your palate and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Even if at the end you say, I don't like it like that. You know what I mean?
It took me a while to actually appreciate drill. And then when I appreciated it even more when my drummer started playing drill beats and then explaining how he had to see it to be able to play it correctly. I was like, holy shit, that's actually really complex. He's like, yeah, it's like a 6/8 clave thing over here. And I'm like, wait, hold on, what? You know what I mean? He starts breaking it down. I was like, yo, this shit. You know, I realized after a while, the only thing I don't like about drill is the fact that the kids are all too young to have a vocabulary.
Well, that's another thing, right? Like, it's not complex for any of the kids listening to it because they don't play it, though.
Yeah, no.
It's programmed. Even when they make it, it's programmed.
Yeah.
So they didn't do what that drummer did.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So they don't hear it like that. Yeah. Also, too, the thing is, though, is that it's what it limits the other side. You know what I'm saying? So it limits the content.
Well, yeah, and I think the main problem with that, I was talking to this guy, Eric.
That's a problem in hip-hop in general, though.
Yeah, well, yeah.
Right?
But I was talking to this guy, Eric, that he runs the STARS program. And that's a music program, and they're in Pop Smoke's old high school. Right? And they're building a studio there. And the assumption is there's going to be a lot of drill coming from the kids, right? But you listen to drill and you realize, like, not everybody's King Von, right? We're not raising a bunch of serial killers that are just going to be like, no, that's not the reality. There's a lot of nerdy kids that like drill. And,
no, that is true.
You know what I mean? Like, not everybody's King Von. But when you really analyze, well, why do I hate this so much? Why does this suck so hard? The conclusion that I came up with, for me personally at least, was it's just they're too young and illiterate for their vocabularies to be interesting enough to make the rhymes interesting. And that's why if there's 5 people on a song, all 5 verses are almost identical.
But they don't read books.
Yeah, they don't read.
They don't enhance their vocabulary to even.
But now imagine what happened if you teach these niggas words. How fly drill has the potential to be.
Vocabulary of them killing.
But not all drill has to be about killing.
Well, no,
I mean, most of it.
That would work.
It is, but that doesn't mean it has to.
That would work too.
Well, we keep saying it doesn't have to be, but it still ain't changed yet. We keep saying it don't have to be that, but it still ain't changed yet.
So who's changing it?
The kids, and they not. So that means drill is specifically for.
But whose fault is that? If kids don't know something, whose fault is that?
Where's the 5%?
Nah, it's not about knowing. It's not knowing. They know they have an option. They can talk about this or talk about that, and they still choose to talk about this. So therefore, they look at drill for what it's for.
You know, one of the things.
Drill music ain't for nothing else but drill, bro. You could try to make
that's like that's really my reggaeton argument, though. Like, it's not a reggaeton song if you talk about something that's not hoes and party.
Right. Like
it has to do with them Bowie.
That's the soundtrack. That's the soundtrack.
But look, the thing about it, right? The very interesting thing about our people's music, it's not hip hop is the most extreme because all of it, drill, reggaeton, whatever, you're focusing on a repeated drum. Right? So that's more. But if you look, all of our people's music though is always steeping it in some type of repeat. So even if we go like salsa and stuff like that, it's not repeating like a break beat, but it's arriving at its own consistency too. You know what I'm saying? So everything has a consistency. Rock music, all of that, they're all going for consistency. Even jazz though is reaching a consistency somewhere in that song.
Because all of it's rooted in clave.
Yeah, so they right?
Mm.
So the thing is though, is like the cliches of what you say on that consistency is really the problem. Right? With jazz though, it was a great it's a great culture because the idea was originality through that consistency. So that's where the improvisation is. With the hip hop at its best though, we realized we could say a whole bunch of shit we never got to say anywhere else, and it expanded to this incredible thing. Right? Then you get these subgenres that are deliberately focused on, and people get the lazy way, and they just focus on, you know, the lesser, baser topics, right? You know what I'm saying? But that's always the easier play. You know what I mean? So again, though, whether it's your education or whether it's the children, though, it's about expanding the palette. You know what I'm saying? With the children, they have a larger palette. Even though they like the same bullshit, it seems like they like the same bullshit when they get like that. But that's the pop world of all things, not just music, but everything, trying to engage them to have a more focused palette. Children seek focus and direction because they have such wide palettes, though. They can absorb so much, you see? So what happens if you let YouTube, if you let the TV, if you let the radio educate your child, that's what focuses their palette, though. And so they develop the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? Materialism focuses their palette, though. The glory of things focuses the palette, though. That focused a lot of our youth palette, though. We saw niggas with shit, and that focuses crime is going to be the palette. You know what I'm saying? As adults, though, as students, and I mean adults from like teenage years onward, right? The palette has been, we have focused, but usually focused to the easier things. This thing of focus and not going astray, this is a thing in all ancient civilizations, like all of our ancient spiritualities talk about it, the loss of it, what they call illusion. Maya in Buddhism, the illusion. Krishnamurti, we mentioned Krishnamurti. Focus your ideas, though. You know, it's how you keep that mental game. You know what I'm saying? Don't lose it. You know what I'm saying? Concentration. That's a huge thing. That's why Buddhism became such an integral part of Kung Fu. Because Buddhism was, especially Zen Buddhism, was teaching what? Focus of the mind. You know what I mean? So as you get older, though, you're not only you lose your focus, but your focus never developed right, but your palate sucks down too. You know, you're a rigid adult. You know what I mean? Yeah, so you hear music though, but you can't really hear it anymore. You know? So like that happens to me too. I'm writing about all this new music and I'm like, listen, there's some real like nothing sellout shit, real creative shit. But it's like, no, I just like boom bap though, like it was in the 90s though. And then even if you play a new boom bap, they're like, this isn't from the 90s though. It isn't from the right?
Only listen to people with gray hair.
Right.
But
they're not even listening. They're not listening to people with gray hair that make new shit today. Right? It has to be like, no, it wasn't from the 90s. I only listen to that. You know what I'm saying? So everybody's palate becomes more rigid. So you have to constantly extend your palate, though. You know what I'm saying? Stuff is, you have to, that's why I said, like in beginning of this class today, I said I was talking about like and dislike has to be dealt with. You know what I'm saying? When I got into jazz, though, I was getting into just a dig in the crates. But then when I was researching, most hip hop, not all of it, most hip hop, when they say they sample jazz, they're not really sampling jazz. Technically, they're really sampling a lot of stuff that jazz musicians would not consider jazz.
Yo, that's mad true.
Isn't that true?
That's mad true. That's mad
Right?
true.
All the stuff that Tribe Called Quest was sampling stuff that we're like, oh my god, that's like funk. And jazz musicians of the real ilk, they hate fucking funk because you're staying steeped in one thing. There's no, you know, whereas us though, when we hear a lot of jazz, out of all the Black American musics, jazz is the hardest to get into because jazz drumming goes off the cuff.
The drummer's not the timekeeper. In
Yeah,
jazz.
so
The
but
bass
that's
player is the
annoying to
timekeeper in
people that
jazz.
listen to music. They're not listening to
5 guys soloing at once. Make up your fucking mind.
yeah, so not used to that sound. Whereas, whereas me, I have more of a jazzy. So like sometimes a lot of funk, especially the funk disco era, like funk was doing disco, like 75 to late Barcades, late Fatback, like all these records sometimes bother me because they sound, it's just the same shit going on.
But it does get you dancing though.
Right, but I'm not fucking dancing every minute of my life.
You live an iPhone. You should be dancing right now.
Yeah, dance all the time. Because we're
That's the stereotype,
yeah,
right?
we're Latino, we dance and smile all the time.
Get rid of some more of those buttons. You can do this.
Right, yeah. 1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Unless you borrow some chest hair.
Right, but the when you look at it like that, right? It's really about us testing it. So like when I started to buy jazz, I was researching jazz, and I was like, wow, this isn't the jazz that's being sampled though. You know what I'm saying? So they're sampling organ jazz, but Jimmy McGriff later. You know what I'm saying, right? Later, 70s, later. None of the shit that was earlier.
There's almost no bebop that.
Yeah, like nobody's sampling, and you're not really. And by the way, here's my argument too. About another thing, it's whatever jazz, the whole thing. No hip hop record has a jazz feel. It just makes you think of jazz because you use jazz instruments. Because if you sample jazz, it's no longer improvised.
Yeah, you can't write the improvisation.
You can't write the improvisation. So you technically can't sample jazz's core. Like, you know what I'm saying? Diggable Plan's Blowout Cone is like a jazz album though. All that shit is funk jazz.
Yeah.
That's not really. There's very little jazz that they sampled there, like from real actual jazz, like what's considered jazz and shit like that. Lou Donaldson, they didn't take any of the 60s records. They took
about to say that.
Ode to Billy Joel. That's later. Yeah. That's later shit. You know what I'm saying?
I think Diggable reps the nation better than any other musician.
They did rep it well.
Period. Because if you notice, like, you know me, Wu head all day, every day. Like 90% of my catalog that I listen to is Ghostface. Right. But there was a lot of savage behavior being glorified using righteous language, especially when you talk about like third string or as Nori might call them, Wu flunkies, right?
Killer Army.
Yeah, you listen to a Killer Army record and you're like, yo,
but it was a full
first
plan to dead the colored man.
At first listen, you're like, wow, this is Saladin marching on Jerusalem. And then at second listen, you're like, oh no, he's just talking about crack.
Yeah.
Okay, never mind. Yeah. It's not at all right.
But the crack is part of the foolproof plan to dead the colored man. Yeah.
But if you listen to a Diggable album, there's like nothing negative at all.
No, it's all righteous. It's all it's all militant black power.
Yeah,
like it's
all like just super
positive
without being corny.
I'm saying this. I love Blowout Cone. That's one of my favorite records ever.
Fucking
but this, who's the flautist that they sampled? Shit.
Who's the dog? No, not
I forget. But most of all her shit was not really jazz. It was funk. Yes, it had jazz elements, but it was really had a funk backbeat.
You can't really rhyme to actual real jazz.
Yeah, it's almost hard because how do you find that? You could sample like a riff.
Yeah.
Like Primo's shit is hard to dig for because he was sampling a lot of stuff for the orchestra of his track, not really the bottom. You know what I mean? Like the actual break and shit. You know what I mean? So he would sample like, oh, that nice horn right there and shit like that. But it's not the basis of what it's the character of the song, the orchestra. You know what I mean?
Because jazz, like, even at
but most
look at
and then hip hop roots though. Hip hop roots is like the most disrespected music of the time. Like critically and like, it was disco. All the early records are just disco, So it's like the music that destroyed R&B, right? It is being sampled for early hip hop. How many people rhymed off Good Times?
Dead ass.
People don't really have a lot of collection of vinyl of early hip hop, like before Sugar Hill Gang vinyls, and every Jewish guy was trying to record hip hop. Everything was disco. They're just rhyming off that because it's easier. What break you gonna find in the Max Roach record?
Nah, that's impossible to rhyme on. I mean, it's not impossible, but like Hosanna could do it. But-
Yeah, no, you need like a real abstract,
Yeah.
like a guy who had fun with that, like Homeboy Sandman or something.
Yeah.
Like somebody that was real agile and really would care to do that. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it gotta
Yeah.
be somebody who's like rhyming to a point where it starts to lose its mass appeal.
Yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I mean?
absolutely. Yeah. Or had none, yeah. Because like Tribal Quest records though, they're not
They got the jazz.
but it's really funk records, you know what I'm
They're not
saying?
sampling it, but they got the jazz.
They got the jazz, yeah. But it's like the horns, they sound like what
It's jazzy.
yeah, it's jazzy. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
But jazz fusion, like, you kind of had to have seen that coming because when you look at where jazz
No. Look, I'm sorry. I
Yeah.
have a huge collection of jazz fusion. I love it.
it's easier to listen to.
Yeah, you know what I mean. I find it's real easy to read to.
Yeah.
It's very easy to read to. Peace, guys. Any advice you need, God, new Papa?
Oh yeah,
Hit me up, God. Hit me up, God.
Yeah,
You're not in the dark with this
little
stuff,
girl.
God. We're together with this. You know what I'm saying?
Actually, got me out too.
That's
That's free.
All right, you're welcome anytime, though, and you leave when you need to.
Next week, same time, right?
Next Thursday,
You gotta
sometime.
All right, peace.
Okay, I got a show down in Marina Hernandez. It's like an all-day event
What's that?
from 11 to 7 in Bushwick. I'll send you the flyer, but it's Saturday by Maria Hernandez in Bushwick. All day street
What
fair,
time?
11 a.m. to
All right.
7 p.m.
I will
I
close
go
out
like-
here
like
too.
12:30,
Let's
something
see if
like
there's
that.
any questions. Truth,
Yeah.
can anything that isn't truth have power?
Rebelmatic is playing, Echo in Brooklyn is playing.
And Bushwick, is that?
Yeah, Maria Hernandez Park.
Oh yeah. I know.
Devilishment has
Yeah,
power,
yeah,
though.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Someone's
Yeah,
misunderstanding that
no,
becomes an
yeah.
incorrect way of life has power.
Yeah.
They have a power
Um,
at Columbia University. I was going to help in the morning.
Power just means the influence of something. So anything can have power. You know what I mean? Is there power in a lie, or is saying that there is power in lies too is a misconception? I don't think it's a misnomer. I don't think it's a misnomer. Anything can be used as a tool. You know what I'm saying? So I would say no. You know, I would say that there's certainly is power in that. But with that last answer, I'm gonna let everybody go. The students are ready to leave. They are allowing me to go. So I'm gonna let everybody go
Okay.
and say peace.
Yeah, I got beef over
Until
this.
next time.
Go by, drop it off, and sort of keep it moving
Okay.
so that, I don't get shot.